see. Sunday live networking questions and other self-hosted Homelab. I have to read the title, folks, so I know what we were going to talk about. Cool. Now I got to mute my phone. I should have done that beforehand. One day I will be clever because Home Assistant, I don't know if you know this, Home Assistant can read and talk to your phone.
Really? I did not know that. That's really cool.
So it all works in real time, but you can allow Home Assistant to control your phone in certain ways, like turn it on and off silent mode. So I should set it up that whenever I hit the button that turns all the studio lights on, I can also have it set up so it sets my phone to mute.
That would be super smart. I'm going to go home and do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it done before you do.
You may get it done before me because
even though I don't have a Home Assistant running yet.
I've been aware of this feature for a long time and I have not done it. So
that just sounds like ingenious because I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting and like recording or doing something, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I got it all start all over.
Yep. Happy Sunday. Good mornings. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello, my friends in Europe. If you're saying afternoon, I'm assuming you're in Europe because he's from the West Coast, and so you're 3 hours behind. So it's 7:30 a.m. West Coast time.
Yeah, I was gonna text the link to my kids and stuff. I realized nope, it's Sunday. They're still asleep. They can watch the replay.
Yeah, but we're in Europe. You're a few hours the other direction. But yeah, so this has been kind of fun. He's been here a few days. First time he's been to Detroit, so I gave him the Detroit experience.
It was such a blast.
Yeah. So while we ramp this up, so we're here to answer network and all kinds of other tech questions and things like that. But what are some of the cool things you've seen in Detroit? Why would someone come to Detroit? And this is from a guy that's first time been to Detroit.
So I really love the Henry Ford Museum. That was really cool seeing that. Gosh, just some of the architecture in the buildings here, that was actually really cool just to see some of the detail in some of the buildings. Like,
they're insane.
It is really insane. And it's just like it was an overall enjoyable time. Like everyone seemed nice. Like we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we went to Detroit proper.
Yeah.
And I say that is here when you say you're from Detroit, and this is probably true for many other cities, you're saying the closest city you're next to. Yeah. Detroit's 15 miles from me. So he wasn't really sure what to expect when he landed here, because you don't land in the city. You land about 25 miles from the city in kind of a rural country area.
Yeah.
And then you drive into the suburban area where I live, and then you drive a little further and you can get into Detroit. And but we went to all of them. We went to some of the old cities around here, seeing the manufacturing, but it was kind of cool. And then I brought him over to my friend Mike's house where you got to see some trains.
That was mind blowing. Just the scale of that setup was crazy.
Yeah. So and I'll do a video later about all that.
It was cool to see CNWR's office and see kind of the behind the scenes of that. And looking back, like next time I got to record more there. Like let's just be cool to share that. But
because we went and racked some servers in the basement. We were doing. Matter of fact, I can share. I think I have to enter myself again to be able to share this. Wait, no, I don't. Let's see how this works. Let's find out. Because if I go here, we'll actually start with all the architecture pictures. But if I drag this screen over here, and then I click this button.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So now people can see the, this is what we were talking about. This is some of the architecture now that's inside the buildings of Detroit. So just kind of some novel stuff we took pictures of. Just, things like that. But hopefully that works. Oh, this happened before.
This happens all the time with me.
What's the solution?
Reboot the computer.
Reboot. I don't like that idea of reboot the computer.
I've never been I'm still fighting it. I can't fix it.
So let's try this. Hold on, we're gonna try stopping and starting OBS. So we will stop for a moment. The audio will keep going, but you won't see video.
Because in OBS, look, it's perfectly fine.
So let's try restarting OBS. Let's see if it works.
Are we back?
No. Wow.
Yeah, I have, and no matter what research I do, I cannot figure this out.
So we are going to, cool, we have a known problem. So we're going to switch to another camera while we reboot this computer. So I won't lose the stream. You'll only lose Dakota for a moment while we do this.
I'll just kind of invade your bubble here. So yeah, this is an interesting problem. And no one had this problem.
No one has this problem.
No one else.
So we're rebooting the other computer because this is a strange. Oh, now we have 2 people that have the problem. So it's me and Dakota.
All right.
So we're going to.
You see, I don't use StreamYard, but it's also like it's with all the other platforms too. Like if you were to open up like a web conference, like Google Meet or something, like for some reason something will happen and it'll just
weird. That's so strange.
In OBS, your video will look great, but everywhere else it just is super glitchy and lags.
Yeah. So I will stay on this stream here.
Yeah.
So you can see the other guy in the video. So we'll do this for a moment until we get our technical difficulty sorted out with the other computer. That is it's fine on this. Yeah. There's going to be a glitch. I'm going to disappear because this one's rebooting and it loops through it. Because that is a capture card. I'm going to glitch again because it's in startup process now. Come on. My audio should be working fine. It's only the camera that's going to glitch. We will share some Detroit photos with people because I'm waiting for the camera to boot back up. This is a very goofed up live stream. So please enjoy some pretty photos while we solve our technical difficulties.
It's just because I'm here.
Oh no, I normally wouldn't use this camera. That's so in some ways it is true. It's because you're here. In some ways, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Well, it just goes back to what we were talking about. Like, why haven't you loaded it on OBS or on Linux?
Hey, look at the problems we're having on Windows. Yeah, that's why.
Exactly. It's a Windows issue.
Yeah, this is the Guardian building. We'll share some photos of this.
That was so pretty.
Yeah, and there's a couple of these buildings, and it was quite a few of them actually, that have this design. I know building photos aren't what you're here for. You're here for network engineering. We're solving technical difficulties. As soon as we solve them, actually, hold on. Let me make sure I don't have anything in here I can't share. We will get to some technical things.
Oh yeah, we don't want to share those photos.
Yeah. Actually, here, we were playing with some old technology. So, and by the way, yes, Windows takes a long time to boot. Who knows what this is just by the photo alone? So throw some comments in there if you're familiar with what some of this is. We were in the basement, and if you're familiar with some of this really old equipment, it's kind of novel. We also were playing with some F5 network things. Who can tell me the name of that type of Ethernet? Yeah, thick Ethernet switch.
Yeah, that was crazy to see some of that, the older tech. I actually thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we had some of the old tech on there. And then, come on, mouse, go where you're supposed to go. All right, we're going to restart the other computer. But we'll keep sharing these photos. Start virtual camera. We just know we won't share anything that way. We'll leave a second stream over here to do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're back over here. This is a weird problem. So we stop. So there's us here. There you are.
There we go.
All right. Now we got it sorted out. Oh, man. I got to do that now because it stops the voice doubling. If not, you're going to get voice doubling. But now I can share via this. You don't realize how technical and hard it is to be a creator and doing it live.
It could be, yes.
Like, hats off to the game streamers that make this stuff look easy by having someone behind the scenes doing it. So now we can share from that computer to you, nice. But we have to be on this computer because this is attached to the camera from StreamYard. Yeah, people are recognizing this. This is some old stuff. Now, this is a cool one. This is the early F5s. I can't remember what year this was from. Do you remember? Was it 2000?
It wasn't as old as we thought, but yeah, I think it was like 2005, 2006.
Yeah. We also thought it was weird. It had a giant battery in it. Everything seemed to be working, but yeah, this is an early F5 load balancer from the. I think these were load balancers.
You know what you do if you never put that back into, do anything really with it, pop that little logo off and like 3D print a cover for it and just have it like a little light on your desk.
Yeah, I actually really like the logo and stuff on there. It's actually really cool. The way it lights up. I could probably zoom in here and see what the year was, because we were guessing the age based on the year of the hard drive. 2009.
2009. Yeah.
Is it still under support? It is. I don't think so, but I'm curious what we can load on. I don't know much about the chipset or what it supports. But yeah, we also had we were playing with this. This is still, so part of the building at CNWR hasn't been remodeled. So there is some really old equipment in there, and it's kind of neat to, it's just, our building's pretty big.
Yeah.
And it's only 1/3 of the building has actually been finished. And we're in the 1/3 that's been finished. So yeah. And this is my, I'll do a video soon on this. My old office is pretty much empty now. So upcoming clickbait video about something that's over. So all of you know it's going to be a clickbait video. But hey, look, it's Dakota when I picked him up from the airport.
Yeah.
All right.
But no, it's been a blast to come here and just see all the cool stuff. And we really nerded out over some stuff. It's been an enjoyable time. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so I did the video, and this is some of the network engineering thoughts I'm having. And please, because many of you know more about MakerTik than me, and I need to know this. Let me find the banner so I can tell others. It's funny because where did it go? Is it these, or is it a media asset? Here, we'll throw that one. Shop at lawrencesystems.com.
Yeah.
Join our forums. Shop. Oh, that's just another shop one. Join our newsletter. What I'm looking for. Oh, there we go. Homelab at lawrencesystems.com. So if you know the answer to this question and you don't want to type it here, but you'd like to email me a link to it, I'm fine with that. Do you know the minimum pair of models I can use to do MC-Lag with MikroTik? Because a lot of people are asking, like, what's a budget way to do MC-Lag? And a lot of people use fs.com. I'd rather use MikroTik. So if I were to do network tiering levels, I would tell you that MikroTik's above fs.com. fs.com seems just quirky and buggy.
Yeah, it really does. Like I've bought a decent amount of switches from fs.com, and just it's always like a low priority. Like if I really don't care if it has issues if I'm buying it from fs.com.
We ran into a switch that a customer bought that the problem we ran into was some type of, it didn't have enough buffers on the ports for what we wanted to use it for. Some weird issues for using it for storage.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's storage. I remember the text complaining about it, how to say that. And I do know Serve the Home has certainly poked fun at the fact that the menus are not exactly in full human English readable language. They're kind of, worded funny. And but MikroTik at least has a decent following. They seem to be a company that are a little complicated in some ways to figure out, but I do know people who are really good at MikroTik and swear by them because they understand all the quirks. There's actually someone who posted my forums from time to time. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. Maybe I'll search it, but I'm curious, like, what was the minimum I need to get a pair of MikroTiks? Because someone had posted, but I haven't really researched this, and I'm hoping I can have all of you help, that the little 4-port model will support it.
That would be really cool, and I can't wait to see you do that video. But kind of going back to your thing, like fs.com switches are great if you want like an unmanaged switch, like just a dumb switch. But yeah, I haven't messed with MikroTik a whole lot, and that's something that's on my to-do list. I'm gonna actually be building a home lab series because I am finally rebuilding out my home lab, and that is one of the switches I really want to get some my hands dirty with. But yeah.
So hold on, let's I was going to share back out. Let me find the right one. Oh, well, these still go for a few dollars. These are, so the Livingston Portmaster is a serial communication server. Just someone has a good, I'm trying to find someone who has a decent write-up I can send people. But let me throw this into the stream. So it's called the Livingston Portmaster, and some of it dates back to having a bunch of, when you need a bunch of serial communications on there. It's controlled over Ethernet, but it's able to do a whole bunch of serial communications ports. That's why it's got like the one in the picture here. Let me find a photo. This is the device. You can look it up from the device name. It's called a Portmaster 2 by a company called Livingston. But they would call these the that's a weird artifact that the phone created. The phone didn't read that right, because it doesn't look like that in person. It's got the rating on it. I mean, I get this being blurry. Oh, the AI tried to enhance it. That's probably what's going on here. But these are all serial ports. So this is serial ports, the DB25 type of serial ports. So yeah, it's for expanding out and having a bunch of serial ports. Picture running a dial-up where you have to have a bunch of modem racks attached to it, or you're controlling a bunch of network switches, because back in the day, everything was just console switches.
Right.
So you would just connect this and have it ported to all of your different things with, before we had really IPMI and all kinds of fancy stuff.
It's a KVM for network switches.
It's a KVM for network switches. All right. So someone's got some answers for us. Let's, right. Can I do remove? All right, cool. Make sure I got it right. I don't want to remove us.
Yeah.
Snip it from the dock. Also, layer 3 doesn't work, and offloading needs to be off. All CR3XX, CR5XX series switches and CR211, CR2 devices can be configured with MLAG using Router OS version 7. That's awesome. So it needs to be a Router OS and not Switch OS. I figured that. The Router OS is good for basic VLAN tagging, and that's where it seems to stop. I believe someone correct me Switch OS. Switch OS, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't even really support the layer 3 routing functions. Like, they're just not available in Switch OS. And Switch OS isn't even supported on all MikroTiks. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think some of them don't have support for it. I think it's cool. The other one, the way you use Switch OS is you go into the options and you can boot into Router OS or Switch OS. It lets you choose each reboot which one you want to use.
Oh, that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, so I thought, and that's a clever feature of MikroTik, the fact that you can do that.
Yeah.
The other clever, I might give MikroTik another shake for at least a few things that they do really well. That switch, and maybe I'll grab that Cloud Router one we have down at the office. They have, when you do the software updates on them, it's the fastest software updates I've ever seen.
Really?
They're really quick, and they reboot really fast.
Yeah.
They reboot faster than the UniFi stuff.
Oh,
so
wow.
And I guess if you're especially in the ISP market, how fast the switch reboots matters quite a bit.
It matters like a whole lot. Yeah.
Because by the way, if you didn't know, Dakota does a lot of ISP management. So yeah.
No, that is like my bread and butter. And like, I was born and raised a Cisco guy. Like, I was a Cisco guy through and through. And then I got into the ISP space, and no one uses Cisco there. It's all Juniper. So that was an interesting thing, but at the end of the day, networking is networking. You know what I mean? You have your little nuances in the different, syntaxes, but
yeah. I'm not very up to date in any measure with consumer routers like the ASUS series ones. So I can't really tell you much about it. I mean, you're asking about AI mesh node. I have no idea what AI mesh node means.
Sounds like a good sales buzzword.
It sounds like buzzwords to me. I don't know what AI mesh mode would have anything to do with networking, but I'm sure marketing got involved.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a marketing term.
Yeah. So I've talked in the latest, matter of fact, I'm really happy UniFi started making some really basic boxes that are in the $200 range, because let me see what this one goes for. I'm just curious where the price point is on this. So I go to Amazon. Okay, this is not substantially cheaper, but it is a little cheaper than UniFi, because I wouldn't buy the UniFis I recommend, and I have a video on it, and I'm going to do an updated one because they have some new models, but they seem to have a base price of around $200. Yes, they make a 129 one. I will agree with a lot of people that it's a functional device with the processor is so slow in it. You have a really slow experience managing it. But then again, what do home users manage? Not all of you. You are not home users. You are Homelab people building it. And you're in your firewall every other day turning a knob. But the average person who goes, I want Wi-Fi to work.
They're in it maybe once a year, if that.
If that. They set it up and they will never touch it again.
They change the password once in a while, maybe.
No.
Yeah. I was going to say, I should
generous.
know better. I should know better, yeah.
Yeah, the consumer market is not changing passwords.
Yeah.
So I don't really know much about the Asus ones. I probably still push towards because UniFi has some of the $200 range that I think are actually a high quality device and auto updates, and just you're going to have a good Wi-Fi experience, and they're easy to extend. I have a video on how UniFi mesh works, and you can buy one of their basic $200-ish devices and easily, with no wires other than a power injector to power it, easily mesh them together with very little knowledge.
That is cool.
It's a universally supported feature of all the new UniFi stuff.
Oh, so what version did they bring that out? Like,
like 4 years ago. So if you've bought anything in the last probably 4 or 5 years, before it used to be certain models, I think, and this is where I mentioned in the video, I have a video on how UniFi mesh works to make it seamless, but I'm pretty sure it's within any device they've run, probably even in the last 5 years. It's just built in now.
Oh, that's
cool. Used to be like certain models, but that was back prior to 2020. So in the last 5 years, I don't think they've sold anything anymore that does it. Someone will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Well, and okay, because I'm not a UniFi guy yet, but I plan to be soon. So do you need to bring that new access point up on the network? Like, do you have to hardline it, get it configured first, or
that's actually the cool part?
Adopt?
Yeah, they auto. So what they do is they show up for adoption. So there's actually a way to turn on auto adoption, but that is off by default.
No,
But when you plug in brand new devices, they show up for adoption because they beacon out. And so that's built in now too, which it used to not be. Used to, I believe in the earliest days of this, you had to use certain models and you had to hardline them. But it was kind of cool because when you took the hardline away, they were still adopted. It just did it. Now it's very automated.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's been automated for a while. What kills me in MikroTik is that they don't support VTI tunnels. Also, no option for tailscale. I don't think tailscale on a pfSense is an outlier having tailscale built in. You're not going to find a lot of that built. Picture this from you're a company building a router, and you build in tailscale. The questions are, what's your relationship with tailscale? Also, what if tailscale becomes an egregiously bad company? There's brand association that you kind of have to debate. I don't think it's a bad thing that companies have added it, but then of course you also have a jealousy. If someone as big as like Cisco said, we're going to go with tailscale, there would be other third-party networking companies going, why am I not getting a deal on this? Why are you building their third party? Because anytime a router builds it, now I just know because tailscale is an absolutely popular tool. It's popular in the open source community because it's the client, not the platform, but the client itself is open source. So there was a big demand and a ton of requests from the community. Right. So the reason pfSense got it was community-driven requests. I don't know that Cisco, despite having large communities, necessarily listens to them.
Yeah, exactly. No.
So, and the same thing with MikroTik. What level should MikroTik decide who does or doesn't go in there? And I don't know many Homelabbers that run, although lots of Homelabbers run MikroTik switches. MikroTik routers, way less popular.
And see, I think that's why I haven't adopted it, because I'm the type of guy, like when I get a Homelab, I love to do like a full stack deployment. I tend not to mix and match too many for the most part. Let's be honest, because we all eventually do. But like when I'm building it from start, like I like it to be one stack deployment, and because I like to see how they all play together and try to leverage things uniquely being in that one stack environment.
Yeah. I really want to poke more at OpenWRT. It's challenging though.
It is. And it's come a long way. So I've played around with OpenWRT a little bit here because I used to full-time RV. And when I did, I had a full network deployment. And I used, like, we were talking about this the other day, I used OpenGL hardware for a lot of it. But not OpenGL.
GLINet.
GLINet, yeah. And their version of OpenWRT, they've skinned it. It's not a full just straight out of the box OpenWRT, so it's a little bit different. I don't know. It's not easy to use.
It's like a good base for a lot of things. And I know, and I can't remember, someone can throw the YouTuber's name. There's a guy building some custom boards for it with ASIC chips on there. But it's also interesting because he's had to learn vector packet routing and everything else. He's trying to put everything on top of it to get it to route faster because there's some limitations to OpenWRT. Now, how is it versus MikroTik? I mean, you're probably, if you're going to learn one or the other, OpenWRT is going to be easier.
It's going to be more universal, too.
More universal. And OpenWRT is built modular. So there's like things you can do from the command line, things that you can do in the web interface. And that's why it's not exactly 100% easy to just describe it. I'm still learning some of it, but it's not like pfSense. pfSense is the same no matter what hardware you run it on.
Right. Well, and one thing I always do when I evaluate if I want to really start diving into something is I also see what the community interest is. If people are starting to create videos talking about if there's good documentation out there. Because if there's something, in honesty, like I only have so many hours in the day. I still work a full-time job plus run a YouTube channel, and I don't have time to try to just sit down and lab something for like a week straight and figure out all the ins and outs. I want something that's at least somewhat documented so I have a starting point, a jumping off point. And so whenever I look at a question like that, MikroTik versus OpenWRT, I'm like, what one is more well known in the Homelab community?
Yeah, the Homelab community definitely likes a lot of those. But let me bring something up here because this is the thing, and I haven't really used the. I want to share this tab, but these are the ones I'm talking about. Like this is their new one, the UniFi Express 7 for $199, and I don't know enough about the Arrow ones, but I don't really care for TP-Link. TP-Link is kind of a security nightmare.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're that much cheaper, and they are constantly plagued with bugs that they don't fix in a timely manner. This is one of the reasons, and this is where a lot of people get confused about the TP-Link ban. The TP-Link ban isn't necessarily to protect you from being hacked. It is to an extent.
Yeah.
It's a bigger problem that when you have tons of TP-Link routers inside a geographic area, and we're going to use the US as an example, but this could apply to Europe. This could apply to your country. If you have a bunch of in there and we see nation state actors coming from outside geographies, we're like, all right, where's an attack? It's coming from outside geographies. Let's stop those outside geographies. But when the call comes from inside the house, and you have 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or currently a botnet of 80,000, I think was what I heard.
Oh my goodness.
Of it's another crappy little IoT device like a router that's attacking people from inside their own country. It's really hard to defend against because how do I tell the difference between citizens doing non-nefarious things as they should and providing attack platforms? So there's a reason they're kind of pushing for it, and it's because of all this egregious security problems. But for $199, you can get the UniFi 7 here, and this has, let me see what it's got built in. Yeah, you got 6 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, 2.4. So you got all the Wi-Fi 7 features built in, plus the ability to add more, like the Eero. I know the Eero does the meshing thing. So you have this, expandable system that auto updates out of the box. It's an easy to use interface. It's $199. You're not talking crazy here.
Well, I mean, when you start looking into some of the Eero stuff, like you're pretty much like that's around the same ballpark price, isn't it? I mean,
I think so.
It's been a while since I've looked into them. And yeah, TP-Link, I mean, it's always going to be cheaper, but no, that's 3 of them.
Well, if you're doing mesh.
Yeah, if you're doing mesh. But also on the same hand, like there's a reason TP-Link is so inexpensive. You get what you pay for.
Yeah. So $139, you're talking someone spending $70 more.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying $70 is just pocket change, but I am saying the price difference seems significant until you start expanding it. When you start expanding it, the UniFi is $199, but they have inexpensive ones you can expand with that are under $100. So if you say I need Wi-Fi in 3 spots on my house and you need to get a 3-pack of the Eero, it's going to be $299. But if we started with this and we go over to the Wi-Fi and we look at their basic models, we'll scroll down here. They have some that are, the little mini ones. The Swiss Army one's kind of interesting. Granted, this one's Wi-Fi 5. Oh, here we go. They've got some in the roughly $100 range, so it's not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one that has Wi-Fi 6. $149. You're close in price. You're not there. The U6 mesh $179. So you're back up to the same price. But I think you're getting a way better feature set.
You are
than compared to the Eero. So yeah, this is a Wi-Fi 6 device for $179. Oh, right here, U6 Plus.
Yeah,
$129. So now you're in that same price as what the Eero costs. You're $29 more to have a really solid, I'm going to say probably better experience than that, but I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say it before the comments do. They're going to say, Tom, that's only 2 devices though, where the 3 was a 3-pack. But in all honesty, I don't know. I would still rather have 2.
Yeah, I'd rather have 2 UniFis.
Yeah.
Which is Eeros from mesh systems have garbage subscriptions. That's a big part of it. Is they everything's an upsell. Too bad MikroTik isn't FIPS. Look, if you're requiring FIPS compliance, you're probably going Cisco or Juniper.
Yeah.
As I'm assuming Juniper has full FIPS on everything.
I don't know, actually. I haven't looked into it in a while.
FIPS is a bureaucratic requirement, not a security requirement. Matter of fact, someone was upset when pfSense changed their password hashing algorithm to be FIPS compliant. It's a downgrade in security.
Oh my gosh.
Because if you were to ask cryptographers what the best one is, and there's so many debate, but like, this and this. But that FIPS is a certification that even though it's a better algorithm or more secure algorithm, it hasn't passed FIPS. So matter of fact, it's kind of the joke, especially with my military friends. Military grade scares a lot of them.
Yeah.
They said military grade means lowest bidder did it.
That is true.
Military grade? Oh, you mean the lowest contractor that lined the pocket of a congressman to build this garbage for me?
See, we in the ISP space, it is crazy actually how little regulation there is for stuff like that. It actually drives me crazy thinking about it. But that's kind of changing actually now.
Yeah. Can I have a UniFi AP PoE switch, but still have the AP connected via mesh? Will that mesh allow other devices to switch, go back to the gateway? I think there might be models that support it, but generally no. Generally, the mesh doesn't bridge that, but they have devices that do. They have bridging devices that do what you're looking for. The Wi-Fi devices, I don't know that any of them support bridging, but the bridging devices do.
I don't know. I was gonna say, I think you just had it up on
the screen. There are bridging. I have a pair of them in there.
Yeah.
I have the bridging devices and they work good.
You know, like a lot of the Cisco Meraki stuff does that. I know right out of the box, like almost actually, I think all their access points does that, but that's a whole different, like you can't compare UniFi to Cisco Meraki at all. And
MikroTik being a European company, they're in Latvia, and they're definitely way more popular outside the US because you're not dealing with all the import, whatever gets added to things that get imported outside the EU. I don't know the details of it, and it's probably in today's economy like a moving target under whatever the situation is. But I don't even want to think about the complexities of that.
Changes hourly.
It changes hourly. It changes one tweet at a time sometimes. I think it's OpenWT is interesting. And
it's interesting, and I want to, like I said, I want to get into home labbing it, and just get a couple of devices just so I have familiarity with it. And
I purchased an enhanced UniFi IPS IDS license in my Dream Machine.
Why would actually? I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah. Should I augment this? So I purchased an enhanced IDS IPS license for my Dream Machine to see the number of things it blocks, certifying mostly targeting my servers. Should I augment this? I mean, as long as you have it blocking, you're fine. But there's always, at any given moment, this is why internet honeypots are so interesting. So there's a company called Greynoise, greynoise.io. It's a commercial company that monitors the internet for attacks. And essentially, it's a giant honeypot of them. At any given moment, there's just a ton of them happening. And they don't mean they affect you at all unless you're unpatched. So there's even some of the really old CVEs, because people are just hammering away. They'll find some open thing with a vulnerability that there's a known way to exploit. Because, by the way, there's a vulnerability, and then there's a common proof of concept that's easily available, that's built into, whatever, if they're using Metasploit, whatever you want to do to exploit that vulnerability. And once it becomes an easy tool people can use, then people will start using it. So those things are happening. Matter of fact, the number of WordPress attacks that occur on my forums that do not run WordPress, my logs, my error logs are crammed all day long with looking for WordPress. If there's a popular WordPress plugin that gets popped, my logs get filled for a little while with everyone trying to exploit it, because they're not looking if I'm running WordPress. They're sending to my web port.
Yeah.
Because my forums are so popular that because they have a high SEO ranking, they go, oh, let's see if we can hit a popular website. So they're just running through lists. So it's not necessarily you have to be worried. Are the attacks against you specifically? Are the attacks against you in terms of the servers you're running? Or you're like, just, wow, there's a lot of attacks. Let's see. Make sure I caught up. UniFi. UniFi. I see someone talk about shadow mode. Shadow mode is the high availability feature of UniFi. Compliance is for pencil pushing bureaucrats. Yes. Yes. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I have a wireless mesh, a U6P actuator. I have to look at how that works.
I mean, I'm sure you could.
You probably can.
But, I mean, it's not out of the box going to be. You're going to have to do some.
I can't speak if they're going to. So here's the thing. Only and specifically their new enterprise switches, because they're running Sonic, now can support things like Q and Q.
Oh, okay.
Could. There's no support for it in the UI. So I don't know. It's not on any roadmap that they've publicly posted. And so I don't know if they're going to support Q and Q and some of that. Cool if they did. Okay, UniFi AP mesh as a PoE switch to uplink is fine. So it will mesh back. That's interesting. Okay, cool. It's actually something I haven't tested. I just haven't. Usually when someone wants Wi-Fi, and we've done this commercial, we did a really cool library project here in Michigan. The library is built in the 50s. You know what they didn't run in the 50s? Network cable. Right. It's a shame. And it's a poured cement building, which means there's no way to go under. And it's a beautiful, the era of buildings, the architecture of the buildings of that time are really unique. Mm-hmm. It's got the roof is a series of wood that supports it. And it's got those, I think they call it, it's like the Frank Lloyd Wright style architecture. Someone can Google that and tell you the style it is. But anyways, you have this beautiful glass facade that goes all the way up to it. There's nowhere to run that you don't expose a bunch of wires, but it is fully wired, as in it has electricity. So what we do is we grab a PoE injector, and on top of, because I have these beautiful old library bookshelves, on top of them, we set the UniFi access points. They're not visible. Right. There's power up there. And so we powered and plugged them in because they have lights that face up to give ambient lighting.
Right.
So we just set the UniFis at the top of the.
That is really cool.
And it meshed together. Anywhere you go in this big library has the server room. They actually have a whole server room in the library. It's kind of cool because they have all kinds of, from looking up and indexing things. Right. Those access points are up high. The server room is on like a second floor, but the second floor doesn't extend to the open atrium area.
Right.
So we put some access points there, and they mesh beautifully to the whole library.
We
did that. I don't know. I think I might have done it in 2019. They've been running it ever since. It's just been flawless for them. It's probably time for a hardware refresh, but I think we used at the time, because it's all Wi-Fi 5, because that was available, the like ACP 8 Pro, whatever the model was, the high density ones.
Right.
No problems. Just works. I just got an email from Squarespace saying they're raising prices for all the Google domain stuff that was acquired. Of course they are.
Yeah, that's why I had all my Google domains, all my domains with Google, and I did not go to Squarespace. I went to WordPress because WordPress was offering a killer deal of like migrate anything over and you get like 1 or 2 years for free.
Yeah.
So I don't really care about WordPress like for hosting and stuff, but domain name, there's a killer deal. Like, why not? Okay.
Yeah. And we and him were talking about this last night. I moved to hosting my own domain, because I used to use Google Analytics like everyone else, but I never really tracked just how much traffic I had. Like, I seen it in Google. I never really thought a lot about it. But I had an idea that all of you probably use an ad blocker. You probably have a bunch of sinkholes for tracking systems like Google Analytics. So I moved to self-hosting it almost 2 years ago now. Now I've self-hosted my forum since day one, but I went ahead and when I say self-host, I bought a Linode instance with 2 CPUs. By the way, there's a live stream when I did this and you guys kept crashing it. And it was kind of funny. It doesn't handle the volumes of traffic because you guys were DDoSing it. But it was funny.
Yeah.
I had encouraged people at the time because I was showing how net data worked, which was a total mistake because people want to see line go up. And people really got to see line go up. And so they kept overrunning it with queries. Anyways, what I learned is about 80%. And again, I say all of you because the people who follow my channel are probably far more likely to have some type of ad track blockers, all kinds of, plugins for your browser that are stopping all that. So Google only showed, it turns out, less than 20% of the traffic going to my website.
Wow.
By looking at the raw Apache logs, I could see the actual traffic, which was enlightening. So I've always continued using it and running my own WordPress. Before any of you go, well, I'm going to do that. You do have to update it or you'll end up back to my forums getting attacked by WordPress. My WordPress gets attacked constantly too.
Yeah.
You have to be very diligent about updating it or someone else will update it for you. And maybe not in the way you want. Do you like Movad VPN as part of Tailscale? I think it's neat. I don't use it. I have PIA VPN. I've been using it for years. So it's novel that they built it into Tailscale. I did a demo because I played with it. I only bought a 1-month subscription and canceled it.
I use PIA all the time as well. Like that is my go-to VPN when I'm on the road for stuff like that.
I think some of their routers have more than 2 now. They have a couple high-end models that do, but UniFi doesn't follow the same design as like pfSense and a lot of others. In the pfSense world, and probably the Juniper world as well, all interfaces are reassignable on the routers.
Yeah.
I can make any interface anything I want. So if it has 6 interfaces, I can make 5 WAN and 1 LAN.
Yep.
And or vice versa, I can make 5 LAN and 1 LAN. They're all reassignable, and that's common for a lot of the high-end ones. But I've always told people, and if you're looking for that type of use case, and even I did this in my latest pfSense versus UniFi video, you aren't looking at UniFi.
No.
I need 6 WANs. Well, then UniFi shouldn't even be in your choice category because not many people need 6 WAN.
There is very few like routers there's more routers than firewalls, but like when you get into the firewall space, there's actually a few firewall companies that actually allow you to have multi-WAN ports like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was a huge problem we had back in the hotel company I used to work for. We were a Cisco Meraki shop, and so only certain ports could be assigned as a WAN port. And like at the current ISP we use SonicWall, where that's not an issue there,
Yeah. So it just kind of depends. It'd be so nice to have some universal built-in 5G modems. Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool. Some of these companies are getting there with some of the built-in. I kind of like it as a separate device. That way it's easier to support when you have like a separate device that usually has multiple cards in it. And also someone who's getting more into RVing like he is, being able to have like the best service because not everyone has the same coverage.
Exactly.
Is it Verizon or T-Mobile or...
Well, when you have it as separate devices, you also, like, if you have more than one, provider, you can a lot of times bond those connections together or load balance across them. So, because let's be honest, I mean, 5G is getting better, but it's still not great.
Yeah. What is so ugly in pfSense, OpenSense, a dropper for Ubiquity products? It comes down to those of you, and the reason I switched over just here at my studio was, one, we have a lot of it we're recommending to clients, and a lot of clients come to us for consulting. So using my more than complicated than average setup, and I do a lot of testing. I like having it. I was testing a lot of UniFi in my lab. Now I'm testing a lot of UniFi more or less by using it here. But here's not my only location. Like we were talking earlier, he's been to my office at CNWR, which has a lab for pfSense. It actually has, I think, a Meraki in one production. So there's or is it Cisco? I don't remember what's in our next. What was in the other? Did you even look what's in the other rack?
I looked, but I don't remember.
Yeah, we have a whole other rack that's for the Toledo office, and then we have 2 more data center locations where there's pfSense running. So we have a lot of things. And by the way, we have I think 30 of the 80 clients, 70 or 80 clients we support, and I think 30 of them run pfSense at not just one, but any one client may have multiple locations. So I'm doing all of them, and it just comes down to use cases.
pfSense isn't bad, but it does take a little bit more work to get set up. It's kind of like it's like a in between of OpenWRT and UniFi. You got pfSense there in the middle.
I maybe should revisit to see the status of Cloudflare tunnels. So Cloudflare tunnels, it should be Cloudflare reverse proxy.
Right.
Calling it a tunnel, yes, it's a tunnel, but in the same way that a reverse proxy is. It's just a reverse proxy. The downside in why I like them, because they solve a lot of people's problems in an easy way, but also I warn people about this. I don't really like when you have a service that's locked to a company at their whim. Right now, Cloudflare goes, you can have a free tunnel. What if there's a regime change at Cloudflare? You know what? We have too many people using free tunnels. All of you, either A, get off my tunnel or give me $100 a month for these tunnels. So there's good and bad. Second, because I don't use them on the daily, I don't know all the features, but I do think there is some level of geo-blocking. The reason I did the video on the tunnels, and I warned this in the video, you have to trust Cloudflare. Cloudflare is doing your SSL termination. So they are now part of your circle of trust, for one, which may not be a big deal at all. It's fine. They're a reputable company overall. There's going to be some spicy opinions when I say that. But it's a good way. If someone says, what is the quickest way I can take behind CGNAT and host this application? Cloudflare tunnel. I'm going to tell you, it is the fewest clicks, fewest steps, and cheapest way to do it, because provided they continue the free service, which they seem to be, it doesn't have any cost. If I were to tell you, you want to get behind CGNet, you're going to have to create a VPN. There's a few steps. Here's some software to help make it easier. You need to create a VPN from you and an instance in a cloud somewhere that's going to cost you at least $10 a month. Okay, maybe you can get a late sale instance from AWS for $5 a month, whatever. There's some cheap ways to do it, but now you're bridging from your system to that system, then opening ports on that system that bridge back to there. There's more steps. Cloudflare tunnels is a single step, because they just automated all those extra steps that are in between doing it. So they have a purpose, they have a use, because do you want to learn the network engineering of setting it up? Maybe. I do. That's why I have a whole video on using that. Also, I realize there's an audience that goes, I just want to host WordPress because I'm a web developer, or I have an application I want to reveal to the public, but I'd rather have control of it in-house to host it. I think that's 100% legit use case, because you're like, I need the shortest steps from here. And if for some reason Cloudflare is not free, in the back of my head, I can follow another process to get around it. But until then, I'll take advantage of the free thing, because you know what? I like Google Gemini. It's free until it's not, but I'm not addicted to it. I play with all the different LLMs, because at some point they'll quit losing money on it and go, we're going to charge for this, and it ain't worth paying for. That's the status of it right now. So kind of a lot to think about with it. What I like is that your forums show how many views my response got. Really hope they can help the 900 some people views it. Yes. I like those when it tells you how many someone viewed it. You also get badges if you for getting popular links that get posted in there. You get awarded. There's a little system they have in the forums. It's built in. I think it's pretty nifty.
That is cool.
Let's see. Ansible, all things. Ansible's great. I will agree. Running large volumes of stuff with Ansible for even in the networking space. And Ansible for networking is really cool. UniFi has a new update to allow any port to be WAN on the routers now. I don't know about any port, but more ports. I don't know. There are ways to change it on some of them. I don't know that it will turn there are a limit to what ports can be changed. For your DC and PF sensor, you're running virtualized? No, we run it high availability with a pair of PF senses. Matter of fact, we did, and I've talked about this before. Let me find it real quick because it's in my social photos. I don't really get people's love for virtualizing things. It always just seems more quirky that way. I guess if we have a lot of space. But if you don't, I imagine, okay, we have servers and we want to virtualize. And the problem is Now, when you update your virtualization stack, you're rebooting your firewalls. So we always like the firewalls to be separate. And I'll show you what we built with. Because this was a data center project we just did. Right. There they are. Because someone asked why we're using 4 of them. Also, someone asked if you can do HA for 4. And I'm like, no. You only need 2 for HA. At some point, you don't need that level of redundancy. The top 2 went in data center A, and the bottom 2 went in data center B. And so we have dual PF senses that each have dual power supplies in them. Yeah. And this is the level of redundancy at the data centers that I feel is adequate. No, someone will tell me it's inadequate or whatever and want to argue about it. That's fine. The person who wondered why I'm not trying to figure out a way to make 4 of them work. I just can't imagine needing 4 firewalls. I imagine you guys have HA firewalls you set up, but not.
Yeah, no, we only have 2. Yeah.
Yeah, 2. That's normal. But I like when people ask questions like that because I had to puzzle over it for a minute. But yeah, we don't virtualize it.
Dual power supply, yeah, and 2 HA pair, that's all you need.
Looking at the CV list daily, if you had a shot any CV that involves WordPress, you would be hammered by lunch. Yeah, CVs and WordPress are a constant.
That's why you back up.
There is blocking lists in Cloudflare tunnels. You have to configure access policies in the zero trust section. There's actually some neat access policies in there. Yeah. Thanks. I hope they don't start charge. Yeah. No, I won't. I don't charge for my forums. That's a free giveaway. Did you guys figure out how to get the picnic network working? I don't know. I'm lacking context. Recommendations for router OS of VLANs and Wi-Fi access points. Just scary MikroTik might be way over my head. I think the Network Berg is the only guy I know that has a lot of MikroTik videos.
I've never actually watched them.
Yeah, I haven't watched them either. But if I'm going to set up MikroTik with MC Lag, he's the person to watch. He's got probably the biggest library of them.
Oh, cool.
But this is one of the things. If I were to pull up his channel, you would find that there's not a lot of views on any of them because people tell him, "I want to shoot more MikroTik videos." I'm like, this guy he's going through the certification course.
Yeah.
The demand is very low for him. The problem is I want MikroTik. Okay. Oh my God, that's a lot of commands. Yep. Yeah. That's a lot of steps to get that done. Yes.
And that's what's kept me out of it.
Yeah. So that's one of the challenges. Wish you use my own domain like Cloudflare Tunnels. Funnel works pretty similar otherwise. Yeah, there are some open source alternatives to Cloudflare Tunnels. It looks like I can make any and every port a WAN. I'd have to look at that because I don't know that you can use the switch ports as WAN. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm not in there yet enough.
Yeah, I'd have to look, and maybe I'm wrong, and I just didn't know. But I don't think so. When you look at the UniFi, let's pull it up here. I believe these ports can be made WAN over here,
right? And
some of them have more ports over here. I don't think these can be made into WAN. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they added a feature so you can assign these as WAN. That's the part I'm not sure. Yeah.
At least they don't document it, at least on their website, or at least
it's not. Yeah, let's just say
material.
Let's look. Is there a way to? I'm not sharing this one. It's just got stuff on there. Secondary WAN.
I almost had a little heart attack. I'm like, oh, you're showing some stuff.
Yeah, I can change ports, but I can't choose. And by the way, you can only choose 2 of them. It won't let you, at least in this, unless 9.1 has an option. I'm using 9.0 and I'm just not seeing an option. I can only switch the 2 secondary ones. I don't see an option to set all of them that way.
Yeah.
And none of those are clickable for that. Yeah, I don't see an option for it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's in 9.1. Someone wants to correct me on that. Let me know. Dangers of virtualization. My company lost a DC due to an outage. Can't specify. All virtual firewalls lost storage because the vSAN network went dark. Yeah, so me and Alan Zhu did a ZFS talk. If you don't want to watch all of it, skip to the last 10 minutes or even maybe even the last 5 minutes. We talk about people who create complicated things and how the complicated thing they created, like setting up overly redundant high availability things, were the cause of their outage more frequently than any other actual failure mode. So yeah, people who create more complicated things will probably find themselves more frequently at the mercy of their complexity, not the mercy of a failure in there. An update that broke their complexity is more likely to cause an outage than an actual failure of the system. Do you use Wazoo? It's WAZUH. Wazoo is a SIM or Graylog with enterprise license. Commercially, neither. I will give a shout out to the company my wife works for, Blumera. That's who we use for our SIM at commercially. I think Wazoo, which I've done a video on, is great. I think Graylog, which I've done videos, is great. Do I use them in a commercial context? No. I do them to make videos that are very accessible to Homelab people. And maybe you want to, because each of these companies sell an enhanced service, you can check them out if you'd like. I think they're great for learning. They're a lot harder to use in production.
Yeah, I've actually tried to set up Graylog quite a few times at our ISP, and it just is I never got it working great.
Yeah. I need to get a set up bridge mode in my ISP modem. This is a challenge where people ask me a lot. I can tell you that your ISP modem needs bridge mode. What I can't necessarily tell you is how whatever garbage your ISP has provided you can be set into bridge mode.
Right.
Because I actually, there's a write-up in my forums from 2 years ago that I did. It's how to set a specific model enterprise AT&T in bridge mode, because AT&T ships you, and it's pseudo enterprise.
Yeah.
They offer fiber, they call it business fiber, but they want you to use their garbage.
Yeah.
They say it supports bridge mode. Their tech support will not tell you how to do it. So there's a series of things in a certain order that have to be disabled. It does say bridge mode.
Yeah.
You click it, it reboots. It goes back, tick the other way. So you click it, it reboots, it ticks the other way. It doesn't tell you why. It was a digging around to find the spot where you have to disable, I think it was DHCP and something else.
Really?
Then it could go in bridge mode. If you don't disable DHCP, and it doesn't tell you this, it doesn't give an error. It just reboots and comes back in non-bridge mode.
That makes sense because, you have to disable DHCP. Otherwise, all your devices are going to get a public IP address.
But you assume on the front page, you'd like to set this up on bridge mode, and you say yes, it would flip the switches.
Yeah.
That would get it to bridge mode. So it's unfortunately very unique on a per device basis.
Yeah.
And because I don't have those devices, the tutorials would be like, how many different devices do I grab?
Yeah.
And by the way, there may have been a firmware update, because that's a 2-year-old post. There may have been a firmware update that fixes that problem, because my guess is the expected behavior is the bridge mode switch would flip the switches. The unexpected behavior is it used to do it when they wrote it.
Yeah.
A firmware update stopped it from working, and someone maybe reported it, but AT&T is lowest bidder when it comes to this stuff, so it probably didn't get reported or doesn't have any. Lots of people reported it. It's in forums everywhere, but none of the developers are reading the forums because no one's paying them to refactor the code.
Well, and I can speak on as someone that works for an ISP, we don't provide modems to our customers. We provide an ONT, but we don't give our customers a router. We allow them to go out and purchase their own routers and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a constant issue where we'll get a customer that will, instead of purchasing a router, they just put a switch there. And we have a hard limit of 8 IP addresses. Once you pull 8 IP addresses from us at the same time, you're stopped. Device number 9 is not pulling an IP address.
Got it.
And constantly people are like, well, only 8 of my devices are working, or my TV's working, but my phone's not working. And I'll log in and see yep, you've hit your hard limit. We can't give you all your devices a publicly routable IP address.
Yeah.
Unless we finally adopt IPv6, which
that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone's corrected. Only the ports on a router, not the ports on switches. So yeah, that's been the case for a while with UniFi. Yeah. That's why I said you can't say all ports, because technically you have a firewall. In PF sense, it's different.
Yeah.
With the exception of a couple models, the SG3100, which is a discontinued model, actually came with switch ports. Yeah. But with enough clicking, you could actually break them out and reassign them as WAN. It just it was tricky to do. All the new pfSense models they've made in the last few years.
Yes, because I've actually done that with my pfSense at home. Yeah.
They're 100% reassignable, just like they are on Juniper or other models. So that's why I said there's some fine lines before you say all ports on a NetGate.
Yeah.
All ports except switch ports is a better way to describe that. I want to be accurate. I don't want to tell anyone to buy anything that won't do the thing they hope it does.
Yeah.
I did see his videos. I'll take another dive. He does explain things really well. I like the of doing all the commands because they want to learn more about networking. Yeah, if your goal is to learn networking, MikroTik will teach you way more about networking than UniFi will, hands down. Yeah, all the LAN ports. Well, yeah. Well, someone's saying yes, it can. I'll have to look at this. Okay, beta 9.1. I'll have to look at that for 9.1. I've made it easy, and if you want to use Graylog, they have been fixing their documentation because Tom didn't like their documentation. Tom wrote his own.
Yeah.
And if you go and use my Docker file, which I make freely available on my GitHub, and I even maintain it, whenever I update my Graylog instances, sometimes there's changes I have to make to the Docker Compose. I upload it and I update it. That way, anytime you pull it, and I said that in the video, I maintain this file. So if you see something in the video, that's because the video is a static point in time. And I don't want to remake the video every time. So always pull the latest version from my GitHub because I'm actively using it. Because when I did the video, Graylog was at 6. Now it's to 6.2.
Yeah.
They don't have a tag. Maybe they've changed this. At the time of the video, they did not have a latest tag that worked properly. You have to specify what version you want, which is actually fine because they do like more enterprise software does support trains.
Yep.
So you can actually stay on 6. 6.1 comes out. You don't have to move right away.
Right.
You can stay there for some number of days before you have to migrate. Most of the time, the migrations are no big deal and they auto do it. But in case they don't, they give those options. That way you're going, I'm not ready for 6.1. I can stay on this for a few more months and keep getting updates.
Okay.
Then all you got to do is change the point number and it does. But one of the times when you change the point number, they added an extra requirement to set a more complex password, and you had to add a parameter in there. I have that in my Docker file now. It wasn't in my Docker file in the video. So if someone did this apparently for reasons I can't understand, their complaint was it would work because it was giving this error. I'm like, yeah, you didn't pull my Docker file. You must have copied the one from my video.
Right.
The one in GitHub has the extra parameter in it. So yeah, use mine makes life easier. How about setting up security for logs and security monitoring? I got a video on Security Onion. I would recommend it. It's a wonderful learning tool. It's a very complicated tool, but it's also really solid. Like the amount of features in Security Onion that you get for free blow my mind. For the UniFi Dream Router, can you use an external controller? Do you have to use any UniFi router? This is all universal right now, and to my knowledge, this is not going to change. If it has a built-in controller, there is no way to adopt it to an external controller. That's the rules.
Yeah.
Tom, did you see Synology products? DS925 seems to be very good now with the 2.5 gig ports. Maybe. Why is your ISP handing out 8x public IPs? You know, you answered that while I get one.
Yeah. So we don't hand out, like, we just have a hard limit. You know, it's all for our DHCP customers. So, you know, we don't require our customers to, purchase our routers. We do have, mesh Wi-Fi routers and stuff like that we do offer, but it's just a limit because when someone unplugs a router and plugs something else different in, that counts as a separate IP because that DHCP lease hasn't expired yet. We have a certain time of life before it expires. So originally we didn't actually have it up to 8. We had it like 1 or 2. And the problem is the customer call in is like, hey, I rebooted my router or something, and their router tried to pull a new IP address and they would get locked out instantly. So we'd have to constantly go in there and clear out the DHCP log to allow them to pull another IP address, or for whatever reason, like I said, they swapped out their router, or maybe they hardlined a computer, because that's one troubleshooting we do with them is like, if they're experiencing internet issues and everything on our side looks okay, we ask the customer to hardline a laptop or desktop straight to their ONT to make sure and eliminate it being an issue with their router, so we can diagnose, okay, is this your router issue, or is this an us issue? So that was one reason we went away and added more IP addresses. And just the software we use, we are in GPON, fiber to the home environment. So it's not like a hard-coded number. We can just type in 3 or whatever. It's like 184 or like 1, 2, 4, or 8. And so that's the reason we just landed on 8s there. And it's a pretty rare instance. Most customers are almost always only ever using 1. But we do allow the option, and we do constantly monitor that to see if, okay, is someone abusing the system. But, we still get IPv4 addresses fairly inexpensively. So it's not really, we've never had a big deal with it.
So
hopefully that explained it.
Yeah, hopefully. It's a complicated topic. Whoops. The obligatory IPv6 never takes off, sticks in our heads. Stand attitude, it already took off. The problem with IPv6, did you talk about that at all?
No, I didn't.
There's a great write-up. Steve Gibson on GRC covered it. I think I shared it out a couple times. And if I can find it, I'm not going to be able to find it right this moment because I got to look at the episode. Someone had a really good rant on it. And the problem with IPv6, and I know people are going to go, you're sticking your head in the sand. There was this adoption. But the problem is over the last, I think it's 7 years, it ramped up to this point and it plateaued.
Yeah.
And the reason it plateaued is the person it's a really articulate write-up because there's not a business incentive. And what they mean by that is we used to have one IP address per website. Yeah. Well, SNI and multi-tenant hosting is completely a normal thing. And NAT fixed it for the consumers.
Yep.
And all of you who are in the Homelab, I know you hate it, but CGNAT solved it for a lot of the other ISPs who couldn't get enough IPv4 addresses. And there's nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. Second, IPv6 from a business standpoint, it's not faster. It just has more.
Yeah.
And it adds complexity, and complexity costs money because now I got to teach all these guys how this works.
Yep.
And as everyone complains constantly for good reason, insert name of device. And I don't just mean UniFi, pfSense, OpenSense. I also mean Cisco, probably Juniper.
Yep.
I don't see as many questions on it, but they suck at handling IPv6 properly.
Yes.
So you have a higher complexity, potentially more security issues. Tell me the business use case. I'm a large company. Tell me why I should spend a bunch of money helping move to IPv6.
Right. Well, and I'll talk on it from an ISP perspective. So, we had, because I've talked about this on my channel before and I've talked publicly about it, so I'm fine with it. We had someone come, like a higher up member said, we're going to move to IPv6. And we are a very small, we have 25, maybe 30 employees on a given day to run this ISP. We have about 8,000 customers. And I went to my boss. I'm like, I am not well-versed enough, or do I have enough time to take on this project? And my boss agreed with me. This was not something we should do in-house. So we went to hire an external contractor to, implement IPv6 on us. They were supposed to be a Juniper expert and everything. And it was bidded as a 1-week project and $10,000.
Yeah.
Over a year later, we only could get a third of our network on IPv6 functioning properly. And the budget was 3 times over. And we just decided to pull the plug because, again, it was not benefiting us. It wasn't a cost savings because we still had to run our IPv4 stack.
Right. Because you're not eliminating one for the other.
Yeah.
You have a cost to implement it, but there's no cost recovery.
Yeah.
There's a cost to upgrade new technology that has a long-term cost of enhancing the business or protecting it from risk by securing it. It's hey, you got to replace this old firewall because it's a risk. And that is, going to do this, or you're going to put something faster in and that will enhance business productivity. So you got to have to think about what that means to a business. And here's someone who works at an ISP, hires an expert, that because of the vendors not supporting it, everyone's but if everyone pushed it, the vendors support it. That's great, but the vendors aren't doing it. And by the way, last I checked, Cisco's a $200 billion company. Juniper's right up there with them
exactly
in scale and scope. So if I can't get a multi-billion-dollar company to do it, by the way, here's a really fun one for you. Microsoft does IP rate limiting, but Microsoft, we were talking about this yesterday. This is fun. So you're like, yeah, Tom, IP rate limiting. That's absolutely what I want to do. IPv6 creates a really interesting problem. It's not rate limited. Well, it's rate limited by IP, but if I can get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 IPv6 IPs, I can hammer the hell out of a password list. We learned this through some of our red teaming friends, that this is a common tactic to beat up things that are connected to IPv6. Yeah. So literally, when I disconnect IPv6 my network, I'm reducing your ability to hit certain things. Like if I'm hosting something that's publicly accessible, not having an IPv6 address means it's easier to geo and region block and block bad actors. Because if a bad actor hits it too hard, I'm going to block their IP address. Yeah. If they have a massive block of IPv6, I can never really do it. So much of our security, for better or worse, does rely on blocking bad actors on IPs. You look at gray noise, like I mentioned earlier. Gray noise watches the internet, looks for attacks. They have honeypot sensors all over the place, but it would be ineffective with IPv6 because you can burn addresses really, really fast. Yeah. And so there's a lot of reasons with current infrastructure why IPv6 is hard. I should just do a whole video explaining all of this in detail. But you're absolutely right. I want to highlight this. Apple Large Adventures, if you want to have a deep understanding of IPv6, he's got some great videos on it. I'd recommend him. I mean, I like learning about IPv6, but also I know all the business challenges that come with it. I watched DFS expansion video, but still confused about multiple VDAV expansions. Let's say I want to expand pool 4x, and the other one has that. How do I proceed? One at a time. You can have asymmetrical VDAVs. So VDAV 1, when you add a hard drive, is asymmetrical because you go from 4 hard drives to 5. Then VDAV 2 will work, but you probably should expand that one next. I think you can do 2 at a time, but when you have an asymmetrical VDAV, you get weird performance issues, but it does function. Let's say you have an asymmetrical VDAV where it is exactly 1/2 the other VDAV. Every time a write comes in, it has a calculation to put 2 pieces here, 1 piece here, 2 pieces here, 1 piece here, so they even up. So it will work even while you're expanding it. But ideally, you want symmetrical VDAVs because you can never perform any faster than your smallest one, right? Because it'll go, hey, I found data. Oh, I'll wait on you to get that data. Data. I'll wait on you to get that data. So you have this kind of weird, odd performance, but it works. You can actually still do it that way. Would you say it's a good time to move from TrueNet's Core to Scale for Homelabs? Yes, I do. Yep. Just for the sync thing app. Yep. Core is so stable, I don't want to risk any data. I get it. Core is rock solid, but it's because they're not adding features. So they're not adding anything to it. So yeah. First time putting servers into colocation. Any first time hints?
Not really.
Yeah. Make sure, here's this. There's this may have cost us, this little maneuver cost us about 6 hours. Because if you, 2 hours, as my wife pointed out yesterday in an argument, how far away is Grand Rapids? So it turns out Grand Rapids to the data center is roughly 2.5 hours from here. And if you don't bring the right cables, you actually will find yourself driving back because you were installing something late at night when you could. Yeah. There's simply no places open that has the right SFP cable to plug something in. So you may find yourself driving 2.5 hours back to go get the cables that you forgot. And then drive 2.5 hours again to the data center to finish your colo install. So if there's a great amount of distance, there's a calculation for you. The proportion of the distance and pain it is to get to this data center is the amount of effort you should be putting into making sure you have the right cables with you when you go to a data center.
My very first job in tech, I used to work for a hotel company, and we had hotels all along the West Coast. And whenever I'd fly somewhere, I had a cable bag and I had a tool bag. And like the other people in our company always used to make fun of me, like, why are you bringing all that stuff with you? I'm like, because we're about to fly 1,000 miles away from the office, and I don't want to be stuck out there without the proper tools. I want to be prepared because, you never know what's going to happen when you finally get on site.
Yeah. I don't understand. He says, what type of, he says, OLT?
OLT Adtran.
Okay, Adtran. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Optical light terminal.
Optical light terminal. Took me a second on that one.
Yeah, it's either Adtran or gosh, what's the other one? I can't remember. It's more expensive, so we use Adtran.
Yeah, the other one costs more, so we use the one that costs less. Adtran's been around forever.
They have been. I'm actually flying out in August to Huntsville to their headquarters to actually tour it and everything.
Oh,
so
cool.
That's really cool.
Testing both T-Mobile and AT&T for my internet at my new house. No issues with family adoption. The download speeds for both are fantastic. Uploads are low. Deciding which to keep as a backup. I think there's so much infrastructure in the cellular networks that even though wireless ISPs are definitely still going to have a space for a while, but Starlink is obviously eating into that space. There's in some areas of northern Michigan, there's cell towers, but there's no wireless ISPs. So the cell towers are the only way to get internet in a lot of those areas. But the nice thing is it's finally becoming more reasonable for people in those areas because the prices are finally coming down on it. So I hope that's a continuing trend. No,
I actually ran T-Mobile home internet for a long time and absolutely loved it. It was very reasonably priced, like $40 a month. As in fiber optic ISP, it makes me a little bit nervous, but then I remember, well, you really can't compare cellular to fiber optic. I mean, that's not the same quality of service there.
So anyone who's old enough on this to remember the BBS days, we used to have the acronym files and things like that in the BBS, the giant text of them. Was it called the Babel file? It had a name, something like that. But anyways, it was
before my time.
Yeah, it was. Well, in early days, one before there was internet, because you're dialing into individual BBSs for things, which BBS, there you go, bulletin board system. I'm starting with a 3-letter acronym here. There was so much name collision in it, but it was cool because you could sort by the name and you could see all the potentials, but then you could answer it based on the context of the question, but you could see all the potential name collisions that had, which I thought was funny. We love our acronyms. My understanding from my friends, I have no military experience, but my friends in the military says the tech world and the military world are just, everything's a damn acronym. And there's a ton of name collision with the two. So once again, the military people have to switch back and forth between the context of, are you offering, are you a civilian or are you military? Because that command means something different. Streaming in from Starlink right outside of McMurdo, Antarctica. That is awesome.
That is cool.
I can now say I probably have someone on each continent.
Yeah. I am jealous.
Yeah, that's awesome. T-Mobile home internet is the lowest priority on the cell tower. That's how they were cheaper. I had it and my latency can spike for long periods. Yeah, there's issues.
But I ran a YouTube live stream over T-Mobile's internet for a long time, and it was actually quite stable.
I have a dual setup, a load balance, multi-WAN router. Connection radios are still an issue in a city center at peak hours. Yeah, it's way better than the way it was. But in the early days, I went to some town halls in here in the area. This goes back pushing 20 years. Where the municipals want to get more and more into providing internet. Mm-hmm. Comcast was so loud and obnoxious. They were so fighting against. They would come and protest city meetings to encourage the mayors not to do this. Don't allow this in your city because it would cut into it. Like there was a time when there was a lot of different municipalities in the earliest days going. It wasn't long after the .com era started ending from the hype, but then started gaining speed where this internet thing might be useful. We're talking like the mid 2000s. And it happened in some cities. I mean, when did your municipal turn into an ISP?
Let's see, we've been about 18 years ago. So
so a ton of cities around that 20-year ago mark decided it might be a cool idea to start providing it. And some went through, some didn't. The only in Michigan, I'm only aware of on this side of the state, at least, Wyandotte is the only city that offers it. They have their own internal ISP, but all the other adjacent cities do not. And it's kind of a neat thing. And I think if you wouldn't have had the market crash, because that's actually what Comcast being loud didn't stop it. in 2006, the economy stopped it.
Yeah.
The economy came to a halt around 2009, 8, 9 here.
Well, and see, like our city doesn't keep, other ISPs out. Like we have Spectrum, or what else do they go by? But anywho, they're one of our main competitors, but we have like 85% of the market there just because offering better service.
Yep. Would you recommend run Tailscale on TrueNAS as an app, or run it as its own separate VM, or on a shared Docker host as a subnet? I actually have it running on a Raspberry Pi right now, so I move around where I run it from. I got to try it again on Tailscale because someone told me something changed. I don't know if this is true since I did my video, because I get comments on the video where I say it don't work, and I don't run it on a regular basis because my sites that I have, as I mentioned, we have, like, me and he went to the CNWR lab. I have a persistent VPN to the CNWR lab. I don't run it over Tailscale. So I'm not using all the time two TrueNAS is connected via Tailscale. So I'm not like constantly testing it. So I would say it should work fine on there. It should work fine there. It's just kind of dealer's choice here. It's kind of your own preference, as long as it's fast enough to run what you want. So I happen to have it on a Raspberry Pi. That's more of a cause I can. I don't really have an exact reason why it's on a Raspberry Pi. It's just a convenience. The other reason, well, there's one other reason it's on a Pi. The Pi has multiple network connections, and when I have other things that have Tailscale, I can Tailscale into the Pi and then move the other connections around without breaking my SSH tunnel, because it'll keep persistence, even though it's the overlay network. So even though the main IP of the network interface changes, the Tailscale IP stays consistent. So I can keep a persistent connection to devices that are on my network, even if I move them behind other firewalls in my lab. Because if I want to do a lab firewall test, I want to see what it looks like to have something behind another firewall, either virtual or physical. And if I move the devices and I'm SSH into the Raspberry Pi, which keeps a persistent Tailscale connection to those, it's just a fun network engine. I should do a video on it because people are like, how do you do all that? I'm like, I just Tailscale and it magics. I've also done it with NetBird, and NetBird does the same thing. I have Starlink and T-Mobile at home. T-Mobile is faster on downloads, but gets slow on busy cell phone times. Yeah.
Yep. And Starlink will eventually be the same, though. It's the thing.
The city that wants to leave the country, they have their own everything. So clearly this person's from Michigan and understands that Wyandotte is a separate thing. The mayor used to be quite the troll. The mayor got mad at me because I complained about their internet, and the mayor used to be a big character on social media and call people out. But yeah, the city of Wyandotte has their own water, their own electricity, their own cable they provide, and their own internet.
Wow.
And they ban other places from coming in and providing competing services.
That's crazy, like that they can get away with it too. Yeah.
Oh, the mayor was a character. One of the more famous things that the mayor did, he was a kind of a big husky guy too. It's cold here in Thanksgiving, and he had some charity that he wanted people to donate to. And if people donated enough money to this charity, I think it was a dog rescue, he would walk shirtless in the parade. So the donations rolled in because everyone wanted to see him walk shirtless. And then he walked shirtless in the parade. The dog's name was Shirtless.
Oh,
plot twist. So he was actually kind of funny too. The mayor had a good sense of humor. Yeah. And he had this cute little dog named Shirtless that he's walking in the parade. Everyone's like, I mean, it was a good cause.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, really? You walk shirtless? And he had the dog named Shirtless. Oh, let's see here. I work for a school, and in order to get the Wi-Fi speeds from our ISP, we have 6 WAN routers. Wow. And any recommendations for load balancing all of them? No, I mean, you just
especially for 6, like, that's
pfSense has the ability to do it because you can set the weights and thresholds in pfSense. I mean, I'm sure other ones do, but like in terms of what I've actually configured, I've not configured 6, but I think I've configured 3 and 4 a couple times. You just also figure out your you can do it by subnet. So you can actually do it by policy routing, or you can do it by weighting. Setting the weights for distribution might be one way to do it. Policy routing is good because you can do it based on your own knowledge you have of which subnets are the most demanding. So you can say, this group demands this group demands this, and I'll just fire each one of these through this tunnel or this WAN. And that might be an easy way to do it. So there's 2 different strategies. It all depends on how well you know your network.
Yeah.
Come on. Going to eel. I just realized to make the token key and it worked fine. I have used it like this for subnet for a few years. Yeah, Electric Eel supports that in there. Will UDM ever support Tailscale? Doubt it, because they have their own version of it. They have UniFi Site Magic, which is not exactly the same, but it offers a lot of features that you might like. So I would never expect that to be in the UDM. Yeah, running Tailscale on a NAS. Is this something I would do commercial? So I probably should have had a qualifier, as I will completely agree with your statement here. When we're running things for commercial clients, we run no apps on the NAS. It is a dedicated box for serving up data. It is not for running applications.
Right.
But in the context of the Homelab users that I'll assume are watching this live stream, yeah, running it on is probably not a big deal. Especially when you're a Homelab user and you're, let's say, because these mini racks are becoming popular and we're going to do some videos on them. I think they're a great gateway in, especially you're going, well, I don't have, like, you know, people comment on, hey, Tom, your lab's cool. Too bad I don't have a lab like that, because I live in an apartment. I don't want the fact that your geography, the fact that you live in an apartment, you live in somewhere that doesn't have enough physical space to run an entire rack of servers, be a restriction to getting into technology. And I understand for reasons like you only have, my budget only allows me to buy my computer and a NAS. I can't buy a second computer to run all the apps. Right. Well, they run them all on a NAS. That's kind of fun. So in the context of restrictions, or you just want to be energy efficient. Me and you were talking a few times about running a NAS on a camper. Campers have both space restrictions, power restrictions. You know, you may not, especially if you're running off an inverter or running off solar. I have a limited power budget, and a lot of it should go to the fridge or my air conditioner, not my NAS. So if I can consolidate everything running on one NAS, it makes a lot of sense. Interesting seeing that video. Yeah, maybe I should just talk about some of the weird things I do in a lab. They're not the reason I have not created tutorials, because explaining how Tom connects everything with an overlay VPN is not usually for business or even home lab. It's just me being weird and going, I wonder if this works. And then I want to be able to move VMs and keep my SSH. So I'll open up a TMUX. I'll split the screen a few times. I'll do this. And I'm testing firewall rules. Yeah. And what I'm doing is I don't feel like restarting the SSH connection. So I keep it connected and I'm moving the device along rule sets. And the rule sets will break my IP level connectivity, but Tailscale will go out and around it, which is supposed to. Then I can use the IP of the actual IPv4 attached to it to do it. So it might be just fun how I test firewall rules. Because someone, I mentioned to you, someone had a question of, they were complaining about UniFi's handling of IPv6, but they seem to be wrong about it. They sent me an email to homelab@lawrencesystems.com, and it's like, hey, Tom, IPv6 rule, if you use IPv6, it bypasses IPv4 rules. I can't prove that to be true. Then they replied with, well, it's only if you set the VLAN to all. Yes. I'm like, well, if you set the VLAN to all routes. So once again, I can't, that's not a problem. Like if everything on the same, and this is where people get confused about subnetting, everything in the same broadcast network can talk to each other. It doesn't route through the firewall.
Right.
So it doesn't go through the gateway. I grew up in Wayne County, Lincoln Park, Melvindale, Dearborn, and Southgate. And before the last couple of days, he wouldn't even know what any of those words meant.
Exactly.
Now he's like, I've been, Henry Ford is in a Dearborn. And Melvindale is where the industrial thing is. And my wife said not nice things about Melvindale. and none of them, I mean, they may not be not nice things, but they're also not wrong. Because you're like, this is Melvindale? And there's houses next to industrial. Yeah. It smells funny here. You're smelling the chemical plants. That's how I know I'm in Melvindale. Jeff Geerling has a mini rack. We're building something similar to what Jeff Geerling's building, a little bit different. And I like different takes on it. So even though Jeff Geerling did the video and several other people, I think Techno Tim has a mini rack video.
Hardware Haven. There's quite a Raid Owl.
So I think there's a use case.
I'm doing a video here soon.
Mm-hmm. There's a use case for these.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Mini PCs, mini racks, mini KVMs, all getting more doable with limited space. Yes,
and limited power consumption as well. I mean, that's like the whole thing. When I first started home labbing, I'm a networking guy, so I had a Cisco rack in my house, and I had a bunch of old Cisco hardware. The amount of power that stuff consumes just at idle is just crazy. But yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, this isn't in a rack, but this is.
But you could build it into one.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of my projects coming up here soon, is to build my own NAS. I don't think I'm going to rack mount though. I'm going to make it interesting.
So even though, and this is my mini PC NAS video I published, so all the details and links are all published on that. But even though I'm using a full-size power supply, which by the way upset many of you, that it was great for engagement, because Tom using a full-size power supply to power this was the dumbest idea. Well, I mean, I could order a power supply, but I had a full-size one.
Right.
I just needed to power it. I didn't really need to demonstrate the cheapest or tiniest way to power it. I suggested you could find these things. Yeah. You can buy an adapter for $25 that's a power brick for it. I didn't feel like spending $25 on an adapter because I have a power supply.
Right.
And my bigger point was, even with the bigger power supply and running the mini PC, I think I was at like 24 watts.
Nice.
So here's a NAS with fast storage and 2.5 gig connectivity. If I were to stream a bunch of movies that I completely and totally legally own in my camper and tie this together and put it on a shelf and use this as a streaming server to watch movies that I completely legally own, I would be able to do so at a fast and power efficient basis.
Absolutely.
So definitely, yeah, Franken NAS. That's what I called it.
Franken NAS.
Mm-hmm. Network Chuck doesn't do many hardware videos, so I can think of. He talked about doing one for 45 drives, but
he did, yeah.
He never published it, other than his sneak peek of he's building it.
Yeah, exactly. No, he got that all set up and never published anything. He's done some Protectly videos, but that wasn't really a hardware video. He kind of showed the software side of it.
Right. He just showed that I'm using this hardware, but never really covered it. I don't think he does much hardware. It's just not his thing.
Maybe a Raspberry Pi video here and there.
Yeah. But all he says is he's using a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, I mean, Jeff Geerling is where I go for my Raspberry Pi information, as probably all of you do.
Yeah.
If I need to know about every detail of accessory or chip for a Raspberry Pi, I think all of us go, well, you must be watching Jeff Geerling. Absolutely. Occasionally, though, and I will admit, Wendell does a few of them too. Wendell's, he doesn't do as many as Jeff, but definitely has some good ones on Raspberry Pis. But yeah, I love these mini PCs because just from the fact that this is so tiny as a mini PC itself. Matter of fact, let me grab the B-Link one. Now, I reviewed a couple of these B-Links. This is not the one with the built-in power supply, but I actually really like the built-in power supply one.
That's cool.
I don't have it anymore because these end up in the hands of my employees when I'm done. So after I do a review where I don't have a use for this anymore, I just give it away to my employees. And I gave them the one with the built-in power supply because I kind of like this one because I don't remember why I liked them. Oh, that's because this has the AI chip. I've been waiting for better feature support on the AI chip before I do something with this. The other one doesn't have the AI chip, so I just don't have an interest in using it. And I don't use this very often. It's only for like little test projects. But this is a low wattage, super quiet, very powerful AMD Ryzen. And the B-Link model on this, if you type in B-Link, I've only ever reviewed like 2 of them. So this is one of them. It says mini PC. It is the 9Y300834N model. Oh, it is the SER8L. I think that's what you can actually find it by is SER8L. But I reviewed this. If you search that, many people have reviewed it.
So AI chip, is that something more optimized for running like LLM?
It's an interesting concept that Microsoft, because they have like the Copilot thing.
Right.
You're supposed to get chips with that on there to run the Copilot things. Now, my understanding, because Wendell did a really good review of a similar model, is that the AI chip, it's a way to do things in a lower power mode, because these are, I think this is, and someone could correct me on this, because at least the one Wendell reviewed, and I can't remember what chip is in here, but a lot of these use mobile processor chips,
right?
Which is why they idle at like so little wattage. But that's what makes them also, when you have a higher wattage chip, you need higher heat dissipation and obviously more power. But that combination means, well, I got to spin a fan, I got to blow hot air, and it's a lot less efficient. So by using some of these mobile chips, they carve out, I think it's the NPU in these, so they can use that for certain functions. It's not the same as running the LLMs, because it won't run the LLMs as fast, because they're not the same as CUDA chips that are in your, or chips that support CUDA that you'll find in like an NVIDIA for an LLM. But it's kind of cool the way they work, because, you have this power and space efficient device. Now, a lot of people are getting into, and I want to look at this at some point, using the Mac to do it, and I don't know where the price point is right now, but as these Macs become more powerful and more optimized, there would probably be a threshold by which a video card costs too much, a Mac Mini costs less, and I can then load a Mac Mini and use it for LLM processing. Now, because there's some tools where you can stack Mac Minis, but where's the price point where 3 Mac Minis can provide this many tokens a second of response in an LLM versus what a graphics card costs? I don't know where the threshold is, but I imagine at some point there will be a cross where the Mac Minis are cheaper, which is crazy. It's because there's so much demand on the graphics cards, but it's interesting. He's network Chuck, not PC Chuck. That is an excellent response.
I have to argue, though, he's more like security Chuck.
He's been leaning into a lot more of the security stuff on there, but he does cover just a lot of, like, he covered Rust Desk. He's covered a lot of software things. I don't think he covers this. I mean, technically, we don't do anything on a PC that's not networking. So I can stretch and extend that. This is about networking as a network port. Would you use this without the network port? Probably not. No. Yeah. I mean, if I connect anything, it's either connected over Wi-Fi or this. It has networking on it. We rarely use devices standalone anymore. Even you think about a gaming console like the Switch. Still has a network interface.
Exactly.
You're not using your PlayStation or your Xbox or any of the consoles without setting them up on the network.
That is true.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. I mean, the only thing that doesn't need a network is like your old, what we call retro PC stuff, like I want to play an Atari. Well, that at least doesn't need a network connection.
Yeah.
Most mini PCs have terrible BIOS. If you go with Mini Forums or B-Link, those seem to be better brands. That other brand that is, and I've completely covered this, like, it goes by like 5 different names depending on where you're buying it from on Amazon. Yeah, those have weird, terrible BIOSes. These at least have nice, decent BIOSes. That's why for budget wise, that's cheaper. And if the BIOS works on day one, it's probably good enough for you. But if you're going, but Tom, are you recommending for production networks? No, those are not in clients. Those aren't in data centers. Those are random mini PCs for running projects on.
Yeah, if I have to run a mini PC in production, I'm actually probably buying an Intel NUC.
Hardware Haven just did a video on using AI and all the pitfalls on a new Miniswarm machine. Yes. Wendell covered the Miniswarm AI one, and Hardware Haven did too. So watch those videos to get a better idea of the pitfalls as they are. I don't like the branding and marketing because it's more branding and marketing. It is not a substitute for how many tokens a second I can get off my old NVIDIA 1070 that's in the other room. I've talked about this. We have some upcoming videos on running Ollama self-hosted. My 1070 will run circles around this. And by the way, this is not a really cheap device. You can buy a 1070 in the $100 range on eBay, and probably a bunch of you are going, 1070, that works? Yeah, it does work. You probably pulled one out because you've upgraded your graphics card for gaming. You just didn't throw it away, or maybe you regret throwing it away. You love the TechTube community. Me too. What do you think about MikroTik? New server they are launching. How can we use it in Homelab? I haven't looked at the new server. I know they have some new stuff coming along. I haven't looked at it much. I think Serve the Home did a video on it. Interesting. I'll watch with bated breath that they make something that is hopefully very usable. Yeah. Actually, let's pull it up because I'm curious about it. They had something. It's this thing. It's stupid. It's hard to find because Google search does not land on the first result.
That's one thing that's really been driving me crazy lately.
Yeah, Google's gotten worse.
Yeah.
That's its own fact. I like that it's green, by the way. If nothing else, I want it because it's green for no other reason than it's green. But it's got 20 of these, 20 2U U2 NVMe slots.
Wow.
I know. 100 gig networking built in, QSP 28s. It runs Router OS, which is, but this is why you have these. So it supports the NVMe over TCP. So you're like, why would Router OS need 20 NVMe's?
Right.
You can take the NVMe's and provide connections to them. So if you have something that supports NVMe TCP, it's a networking way to attach to them. So it's just neat. Conceptually, I think this is cool. I'm going to plug in 100 thing, and then it's on the back side is where the network is. And on the front side is all the different, the 20 spots. But it's running ARM. So you're not going to run TrueNAS on this because it's ARM.
Right.
And TrueNAS doesn't run on that. And it's also made to run Router OS, not other things. So
it feels like a very niche use case.
Device. I get it in concept, but it's getting good support for these networking NVMe. That's where things get tricky. Is everyone asks when TrueNAS is going to support it, and maybe eventually it will. And the concept would be, I load TrueNAS on a head unit. Now, we were talking, my friend has some NetApp boxes I'm doing a video on, and you've seen them. They're pretty cool. So you have a head end, and you get a controller card, and you tie it to that head end, and cool, I can run TrueNAS with this. Well, instead, picture doing it over networking. But TrueNAS doesn't support this as a feature, but you would then IP address all the different NVMe's, and at 100 gig, now I've got a 100 gig connection to all the NVMe's.
Right.
Pretty cool. The downside is, and this is what I want people to think about in a Homelab, 100 gig connections. How expensive are those?
Those get really expensive. I mean, 10 gig gets expensive, let alone 100 gig.
Yeah. And it's also power intensive. So as cool as this is, think about what it takes. I have to have, and I'm also limited to 100 gig, which is not slow, but I'm talking about U2 NVMe and its max potential and the overhead of doing it over networking. I don't know what the latency is on that.
Right.
So when you're doing network connectivity to drives, like with an LSI card and a SAS connector, you're taking a SAS connector that's no other overhead. It's directly talking to it. It just has the electrical overhead to get to the box, the HBA box. That's it. We have networking involved. What could possibly go wrong? Right. And there's going to be somebody trying to route this to their router.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what's 100 gig switch? You're talking like $4,000 at least just for the switch. Then you gotta get all the optics or cables and yeah.
So it's cool, but I don't know what it looks like for the Homelab. Open hardware. What do you recommend for cost effective for OCP based products? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that right now. And I don't know that any of them are, I don't know what all is cost effective. Buy 4 Mac Minis for the price of a 5090. Not that they exist. That's a whole other problem. Yeah. They're unobtainium. So we're having an academic debate here. Well, I could buy a 5090. No, you can't buy a 5090. That's when the conversation stops at that. And if you do buy one, apparently some caught on fire. So
yeah, no, that was like a real thing I was hearing.
Yeah. So they are unobtainium. I'm wearing a Garmin.
I'm wearing a Samsung. I don't remember which Samsung.
Yeah. The Garmin, I don't know. I get 7 to 8 days out of this. And the new one lasts, my wife's last 14 days.
I get maybe 2.
Yeah.
But this is like a 4-year-old watch.
Yeah. So Garmin kind of wins in the a couple categories. Garmin has one that's got solar on it, but it's black and white. Mm-hmm. It's like their outdoors one. The solar, if you're in the sun enough, you can leave it in the sun enough each day to keep it almost perpetually charged, I think. But the Garmin has all kinds of cool tracking, but there's way less features than Apple Watch, Samsung, Google's. I don't know what the Google one's called.
I think it's a Pixel.
Pixel Watch. I went with Garmin because I don't want to have to charge it very often, so I like it. The Garmin does exactly what I need to do. I want to track my steps. I want to track if I do something. The GPS is actually highly rated in these, and I don't have to charge it all the time.
See, if I turn down the notifications I got on mine, I'm sure it would last way longer. But currently, I have it set. Any notification comes into my phone, it comes to my watch.
Yeah. Intel NUC makes a great PC project.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely agree with that. I have a MacBook Pro 128 gig, and it's cranking LLMs almost as fast as my 4090 can run huge jumps. That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's what I've heard is that they're really good. Like I said, I know the MacBook Pros are relatively expensive, but it's also cool how fast they are at running these LLMs. Baby poop green. Yes, it is. Roses are green and liquor is sober. Yes, you're right. It is just a strange.
That is.
It's called Rose.
I love it, but
I mean, who doesn't want a military green server?
I know.
There's something cool about that. Yeah. Who would want all that storage on network router server? Oh, that's probably and like I said, when I first displayed it, you were asking the same question in your head.
Yeah, I'm like,
please explain the joke, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there can be use cases for it, but
I love the TrueNAS videos and love your ZFS as a cow thing. I don't know why, but there's a couple people, and some have been banned because they are posting so many comments. I just said, I had to mute the person. They are absolutely adamant I am wrong about ZFS being a cow. And I'm like, look, I didn't invent that term. Copy on write file system. That's invented by the people who wrote ZFS. And so Alan Jude being a contributor and coder to ZFS. I brought it up. I said, this is going to sound like a really odd question to you. I told him before we started recording. I said, but I'm going to bring up about ZFS being a cow. He goes, is there doubt? And I was like, it's kind of like a flat earth thing. I said, I don't know why they believe it. I don't know where this misinformation came from, but there is a growing number of people who leave comments on my ZFS as a cow video, or anytime I mention ZFS being copy and write, that I'm wrong. And I was like, I didn't make that term up. I didn't look at it and call it a cow. I didn't say that, I'm not into, classifying. I'm not a zoologist, but I think that's a cow. Mm-hmm. I read documentation from people who wrote it and repeat their words. Right. It's copy on write. But Alan Jude's like, maybe I'm not in those communities. I said, you're not on YouTube is the problem.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know where the source is, but there's a source somewhere. I love to know, other than the people who comment and tell me ZFS is not a cow, is there a large tech YouTuber or forum poster that's popular somewhere that people have given authority to based on their posts that says ZFS is not a copy on write file system? I want to know who that person is. Let's confront the source. I don't know where the source is. I just see the result of people telling me ZFS is not a copy on write file system. Hi, Tom. UniFi AP. Which one is the cheapest one to connect to pfSense? If I only buy a single network cable and get LAN, gets Wi-Fi. Whatever the cheapest one at the time, and I don't know where you live, that may vary based on availability. Yeah. Any of them will work. Any of their Wi-Fi access points will work on a pfSense. There's not any that won't. So just look for whatever one is the least expensive in your area. One of the things that UniFi does, they release like some new models, but even my friend Cody in Canada, it's funny because he's like, they won't be available in Canada for 2 more months. So there's availability challenges. Like they did release some new base models, but those models may not be available outside the US for X number of days. Yeah. And even inside the US, if demand is really high when they first release them, the first 90 days of a product release is sometimes limited availability because, I have to have the new shiny, and everyone buys it. You need to run Mint Linux on that one. I'm not sure the context, but maybe it is the context of the what would connect to this. I don't know. I gotta admit, it's cool. It's been out for a little while. It's not a brand new product because when did Oh, I guess it is relatively new. Serve the Homes article on it. It's only from February. So yeah. Okay. February 2025. I think it might have been announced last year. There's some better pictures of it. It's neat. I think it's cool. I don't have anything that'll take advantage of it. I just think it's cool. There's very little on it. This write-up is not particularly in-depth. Oh yeah, there is the Switch NAS server, which was weird. This is something QNAP made about 5 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a switch and a NAS built in. The problem is it's running QNAP. QNAP is not great with security. QNAP's I pointed out, I did a video because people kept asking me about QNAP. And one of my problems I have with them is they were ignoring security researchers. And they have some pretty egregious bugs, and it's on a continuing basis. You look at how many CVEs that are very high. So Synology has a few high CVEs, but they weren't found in the wild. QNAP is like, this is under active exploit. We found it because people were exploiting it. Synology, we participate in Pwn to Own every year. People found some interesting things at Pwn to Own. It is now patched. So yes, it's a high CVE. Yes, it was patched. And yes, it was found by a security researcher. Awesome. That is, and UniFi does the same thing. UniFi had paid out, if you look at their page, I think they're almost like $2 million or $1.5 million to $2 million in bug bounties paid out. So yes, there are CVEs in UniFi that were found by bug bounty people who were paid and incentivized to do so. QNAP seems to be, and the same with Fortinet. By the way, Fortinet doesn't have a bug bounty program.
Really?
I know. I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
I think it's because they go bankrupt. But Fortinet's almost like, Fortinet is almost every month on active exploit lists of, this was found in the wild. People were pwning companies who own Fortinet, and then Fortinet patches it. So there's companies being proactive going, here's my device, hackers. I will pay you to find the flaws. And Fortinet going, uh-oh. we sell these devices to government entities, which is kind of the same thing. So someone attacked a bunch of departments using these, and now we found a problem, pretending this is a Fortinet, not this device.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have no idea how much it is. I have a video review of the new 100 gigs switches. You can find that video on my channel. I posted it just like a week ago.
Those suckers are heavy.
Yeah, we just took them over to my friend's house. So what do you think about the X520 DA2? I think it works fine. You're planning using a DAC cable connected with UniFi's PoE switch. Oh yeah, I have some of my servers have DA2s in them, and they work fine. Someone was mad when I did my DAC video that I suggested people get Intel cards. I apparently upset the Mellanox people. Mellanox is fine too. I should have gave them some love. Whatever you do, if you're getting a network interface card with DAC on it, just don't buy one that is what's the company about VMware? Yeah, I know. That one.
Who bought them?
Yeah, they make terrible network interfaces. Was that?
Oh no, I just said anywho. I don't remember.
Yeah. So Mellanox is fine. It's easy to tell you which ones are fine because some of the other ones are much less than fine.
Yeah.
But Intel DA2, well, the reason I usually suggest Intel cards.
Broadcom?
Broadcom.
Yes.
The Broadcom based chips suck. This is something I did a consulting project for a client, and he chose to listen to almost everything I said. And I said, avoid. He wanted all. I think it was 25 gig is what he's putting in. I said, just don't get the Broadcom chips. And he couldn't resist because they were cheaper. So when he started building out his infrastructure for virtualization, and he went with Broadcom for those cards, he had just these weird, quirky problems. And I was trying to help him troubleshoot the problems. Turned out the problems with the Broadcom cards. And they were a bunch of performance and connectivity issues. And I can't explain why Broadcom has that. You would think we are far enough along in the ecosystem making 10 gig and 25 gig chips.
Right.
But even the Dell, I had this going back like 4 or 5 years ago. This is kind of how I learned about how bad they are. Probably 6 or 7 years ago now, because it was a Dell 720 series. Mm-hmm. The 720s, some of them had Broadcom, some of them had Intel. The Intel ones, because they were all virtualization, I was running a stack of them.
Yeah.
They're the same server, but I bought them at different times. So they had different network cards in them. I didn't even think about that Dell had some models with Intel and some models with Broadcom. The Broadcom ones, I could get 10 gig between the virtualization servers, but the VMs running on those hosts, only between the Intels could get 10 gig. Broadcom got 7 and 6, and occasionally 4, but then they go back up to 7 and 8. It would do this when you're running iPerf. It would flap. I couldn't explain why. I thought there's something wrong with the server, and I wasn't wrong. I just was wrong about what was wrong with the server. Yeah. Turned out to be the Broadcom chip. And so there's a daughter board in these, and you can swap it out on the Dells. I think I don't remember if we swapped it out. I think we just popped the network card in it. We've retired those servers since, and I don't have them anymore. But it was only the Broadcom ones. All the Dells with Intel, flawless, never a problem. And that was what this customer was running into. Was they have a Broadcom kept having these weird. iPerf does a bunch of retries on those ones. It just keeps failing. But it's weird because when you iPerf the host operating system, they talk at 10 gig. It's only the virtualized ones that couldn't, but they can. You could take that VM and you'd migrate it to one with an Intel, it talk 10 gig. You migrate it to one with a Broadcom, it wouldn't talk 10 gig.
That's interesting.
But that's a hard problem to find and diagnose.
Yeah.
And this was a production environment that I was doing the troubleshooting in. So yeah. Now, this is very true. Wendell's got a video on this. You can reload many of the QNAPs to run TrueNAS. Not all of them, but I think many of the Intel-based ones. And it may be unsupported, but my feelings based on talking to people who've used QNAP, they feel like the QNAP is unsupported. So,
yeah, and that's one reason I've never really played around with them.
I don't know the answer to this. Spend some time in the forums. You'll probably find someone with an answer to it, but of actual support on like the Mellanox Connect X2. I think right now, because I got 25 gig with my servers in the other room, I think I'm using the Mellanox Connect X4 cards on there. I don't know if they were mispriced or why. I don't remember exactly my reasoning for it. I somehow have 6 of them. I think it's because they were on sale. Yeah. And when they're on sale or a price that doesn't make any sense, and I was on, of all places, I know I bought them off of Amazon. They were really cheap, so I bought I'm buying 6 of these because the price is low. I don't need 6 25 gig cards, but I have them now. Nice. I think I gave a couple of them away. I remember looking at my order, but I bought them for cheaper than you usually get them for. You can find deals, but yeah. Don't remind me about Broadcom dealing with their merge and with Carbon Black. Yeah, if you're dealing with their Carbon Black security software and all the other VMware disasters they created, they're just an awful group of people.
Yeah.
They're a greedy venture capital firm posing as a tech firm. That's what Broadcom really is. It's a trench coat full of PE firms.
Oh my gosh. Do we hit the end?
I know we're actually caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point I'll lose my voice because I talk a lot.
I know. I go when I do live streams, I'm the exact same way. I just go until I lose my voice. I'm like, okay, that's all, guys.
Yeah. At some point we go, we've had enough. We can show pretty pictures again. Actually, I'll pull this up because now there's 200 people watching. This is what we shared at the very beginning in case anyone doesn't want to rewind. This is the architecture in Detroit. I'm a little bit of an art nerd, and I'm fascinated that Detroit has buildings that are these are just office buildings. This is not a museum or anything. This is just office buildings in Detroit because they're so wildly built. And like the inlay, the glass, I think this is an exterior window, and that's the light coming through the glass.
Yeah, no, actually that is. I was looking at that as we were walking by there, and yeah, that's an exterior window.
Yeah.
Though they do have a light shining on it for at nighttime.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's these buildings are so cool in Detroit. I just feel like sharing that with people.
Yeah.
Not many people come to Detroit for vacation, for good reasons. if you're wondering if many of those bad things are true about Detroit, yes. He's seen.
I was gonna say there's some neighborhoods we drove through. I'm like rolling up the window and
yeah.
I do like that comment though. Detroit pizza or potato pizza?
Ooh.
I've tried for the first time I was here. What was that? Steak and potato pizza?
Steak and potato pizza.
That
is amazing.
I gotta see if I can find somewhere that does that back at home, or I'm gonna have to go get some potatoes, and my wife's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" I'm putting potatoes on my pizza.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. I'm trying to find the old shirts that we used to have. High Vacation Detroit. There was these shirts that here they are. They're still on eBay. This was the old shirts that everyone used to have in Detroit. This cracked me up. There's a few different variations. But he said, "Welcome back to Detroit. We have bullet holes in them. We missed you the first time." So yeah, it wasn't really a thing, and we didn't get a chance because there's only so much time, and we did Arabic food and some of the other ethnic foods that are available here in Detroit. So we didn't get a chance to do Detroit pizza.
Yeah,
but I mean, you can get Detroit pizza way outside of Detroit. It's not absolutely unique to here,
right?
So there's lots of companies that do the square butter around them, cool, crunchy pizzas. I actually think it's a little overrated. It's good. I do like it. Don't get me wrong. I love Detroit pizza, but it's not like I wouldn't tell you come to Detroit for the Detroit pizza. He had Tawuk for the first time on the other hand.
That was delicious.
Tawuk is amazing.
And this guy can cook.
Oh, yeah. Grilling. I love grilling food and grilling meats.
Especially with the smoker.
Yep. But he hadn't had like fresh Arabic food with fresh garlic and that is different. Yeah.
So
he's still burping garlic.
I am. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
At least I didn't have beans for breakfast.
Yep. I had beans for breakfast. That's a different topic. Oh, you know what? Have you ever been to a Micro Center?
I have not, and I'm actually really disappointed. I haven't. There's none of them on the West Coast.
If we leave now,
I'm all for it.
You want to visit the Promised Land?
Absolutely.
It's 40 minutes there. That puts us there at 1, but we would, the downside is we have to be at the airport too.
Yeah,
it's the opposite. Is the opposite direction of the airport.
Yeah, we had to be at the airport by 2:30, so that maybe I'll have to say that for the next trip.
Yeah, it's on the edge. We'd only be able to be there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I can't spend enough money fast enough.
Yeah. You'd have to check your own luggage here.
I know. I was gonna say I need a check bag. My bag's full.
I didn't even think about.
I think there are Micro Centers on the West Coast. I'm not sure.
There are. There's somewhere,
but just not in Oregon.
They're pretty. It's a hike.
Yeah,
but it's much less of a hike than getting here to Detroit.
Exactly.
So, in UniFi switch, can you create your bandwidth profile and pair as always? You can do it individually. I'm not sure the question you're asking. Maybe post that in the forums to get a little more specific. The interesting thing in Detroit is close to Southgate. Yet Southgate crime is not that bad. And Detroit crime isn't near what it used to be. Detroit's way calmer. Buffalo style pizza similar to Detroit. Yeah, there's other places that have kind of copied. Yeah. To my knowledge, according to historians on YouTube, Detroit pizza started in the 1940s, and it's the original place what that was founded. But then again, making square pizzas with lots of butter, it seems like a natural progression. It's like the wheel.
Yeah.
More than one group of humans invented the wheel throughout history. It wasn't like one place, but it was discovered. I feel like the downtown core has a moat of freeways. Anything inside that is safe as any city. Yeah. Once you're in that little downtown area, it's a lot different. There's a Micro Center in Orange County. Cool. Hi, Tom. Can you do a video networking for the disaster recovery video? Sure. That's been a lot of confusion there. So yes. Same subnet on both sites. Yeah, it's not hard to do same subnet on both sites. You just don't route it. But yeah, I can do a video on it. I'll do a bigger picture on what it looks like to have that and talk about all the different options of how that works.
Yeah.
Cooking Arabic is much easier than troubleshooting my Homelab. We'll go with that. Lawrence cooking channel soon. Maybe, I don't know.
Cooking and motorcycles.
Cooking and motorcycles. It'd be more motorcycles than cooking. Yeah. I like both though. Roma Pizzeria, right down the street. Roma's is good. That's actually one of the places my wife suggested. I said, you can get Italian really anywhere. Don't get me wrong. Roma's is good Italian. I'm not knocking it, but Italian food versus Middle Eastern food that he doesn't have on his side of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it does exist. I know in California,
but it's just not as like,
yeah. Like when you go to Dearborn, you are in the old country.
Yeah. I am disappointed. I didn't see any stop signs in other languages.
Oh, that's right. We didn't go to see the Arabic stop signs. Yeah.
It's all good. A reason to come back.
There's still more in a Micro Center.
Yeah.
The Micro Center is cool, but yeah.
See, we had Fry's on the West Coast.
So you've seen them.
Yeah.
Fry's and Micro Center are very similar.
They're very similar.
Yeah. Cooking, motorcycles, and computers. Add cigars, whiskey. I can't add cigars. I don't mind. I have some friends. I've gone to cigar bars with them. I wouldn't say it's something I go out of my way for. I like whiskey a lot, but cigars, okay. If I'm with my friends who know a good cigar and they want to share it, I will join them. But if I'm by myself, I don't usually get a cigar.
I don't think I've ever smoked a cigar in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Fry's is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. All these places are.
The internet killed it.
I'm surprised Micro Center's done as well as they have.
They seem like they're doing really well.
They lately. Are. Like they've done a great job. So I definitely like that. But Dearborn, Michigan. Let me find. Well, we didn't take a lot of photos of it. They're in there right away. YouTube video. Living in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan. But when it's not like you're in another country in a weird way. And this is why I don't like people try to politicize this. You'll see larger signs that say this is like a bread store, but they'll have an Arabic sign on there or even Walgreens, like whatever. Yeah. So you go places and it's in both languages. I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me. Did we have any problems at all going to the stores?
No, we're quite friendly.
Yeah, it's all super cool there. Like I have no complaints about people make such a big, oh my gosh, they have a sign on their building that's Middle Eastern. I'm like, so? Like the food's good, the people are nice. I don't know. It's kind of I don't mind it at all.
No.
People overhype it. And I always tell people, come visit the city. Whole different. It's not that bad at all. Tried XCPG SCN on public interfaces, couldn't get it to work. Shoot a video, just ended up using WireGuard between VMs, advertising management network. Yeah, I think I have to do an updated video on it because it's updated a lot since then. Also, there's a lot I'm only going to show because of the complexities of it. And there's a great Art of Networking. The Art of Networking podcast has a guy who talks about VXLAN and how hard interoperability is between VXLANs. Nice. Like if you want to have multiple vendors in VXLAN, good luck. Like if you want to stick with one homogenized vendor and figure out their quirks, like I'm going to use Cisco VXLAN everywhere. And I kind of feel the same way with XCP-NG. You can build a VXLAN between all your stuff.
Right.
Do you want it to communicate outside of XCP-NG? I don't really, and he talks about why that's so hard for the companies because it's not like your VXLAN is not exactly the same as your standard 802, your standard VLANs.
Right.
So there's use cases for it, but like, do you guys use VXLAN at all with Juniper?
No, not really.
And I sometimes find people going, I want to use the new shiny complicated thing. I have to sometimes ask them what their use case is. And I would rather do it this way. I'm like, would you? Is this the right way to do it? There's actually an easier way to accomplish this, and it might be less complicated. Cue back to our talk 20 minutes ago, and I said, or 30 now, at the end of me and Alan Jude's talk, we talked about complexity being one of the biggest drivers in people's failures, not a failure of the hardware, a failure in the something related to the complexity of how they built it.
Exactly. You know, going back to like we are very small. Like our NetOps team is 2 people, and one of those is me. So, you know, we don't have the bandwidth to like. We just got to make sure it works and works good and reliably.
Yes. Keep it simple, stupid. No doubt at all. Yeah. The yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, visit Central Kentucky and do the Bourbon Trail. Yes.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, I've actually me and the wife were down there and we went to some of the bourbon places. It's great. If you're into bourbon, I don't encourage drinking for those of you that do not drink. But it's something I enjoy, and I don't enjoy it to excess. He's noticed like I pour myself a little bit. I got a collection here. I even got some Pappies, and so I'm definitely a fan. Visit Fairlane Town Center, interesting mall. At times I think they'll close. I remember the people mover. Oh yeah, back when they used to have the Hyatt closed forever ago. Used to at the hotel, they had a people mover type thing. They had a shuttle, essentially, a tram that just went between the mall. And the mall is cool because Fairlane Mall was a really cool place. It is a big mall that has a lot of emptiness. Our mall down the street here went bankrupt twice now, and someone else finally acquired it. It's in business, but it's been operating in bankruptcy. And the reason they won't liquidate bankrupt it because no one knows what to do if they close it.
Yeah.
So the bank is like, if we close it, if we liquidate it, there's nothing to liquidate. No one wants the property.
Yeah.
So anyone who ends up holding the bill on it just kind of goes, we'll leave it in here until someone buys it back off of us we'll take a loss because the loss on someone buying it is not as bad as actually trying to close this giant monstrosity that we built. It's way too big. It's got a parking lot that is I don't even think they remodel part of the parking lot anymore because they never use it. They never fill how big the parking lot is. It never get that many people there anymore.
That's sad.
Yeah. And most of the malls are like that. The Fairlane Mall is like that too. It's just not much there anymore. Can you elaborate more on the UniFi software for honeypot function? When enable it, it seems as if it blocks certain websites. All legit. I disable honeypot. I have no idea why it would block websites. The only thing the honeypot does is create a honeypot and let you know if someone does it. I forget what it's listening for, SSH or SMB. It's listening to a couple services. And if someone touches the honeypot, it says alert, this device touched honeypot. That's all it does. Has nothing to do with blocking websites. Yeah, carry forward losses in the shell company, pretty much. Remember Sears? Yeah, that is finally torn down. Sears was one of the huge ones was here, and it also was like the size of a mall. They leveled it because the building was falling apart after it closed, but no one did anything with it. It's just gone.
We actually. When Sears all closed up in Oregon, we actually had a few of those like little pocket, like where you could buy a lawnmower or like a few appliances, but like they were very, very small.
Yeah. But
those went away.
Yeah. We had the giant, like full on Sears department store experience. Yeah. Like it was a massive, massive place, but yeah, it's long. I've been out of business for a long time. Banks have to carry the commercial properties. Else have all commercial properties crash to zero value. Yeah. The economics of a lot of where we are now, because with people working from home and there's less demand on commercial buildings, they just rehabbed, I think it's like a 9 or 10 story building down the street to be residential. In rehabbing a commercial building residential is tricky because commercial buildings have shared common bathrooms. People that live in apartments do not shared common bathrooms. And by the way, there's also no plumbing for your kitchen. So the rehab has been taking a long time because they have to redo all the plumbing to turn what was office spaces into individual apartments. They're doing a good job of it. It's kind of cool. They've been sharing behind the scenes, and the building's been an eyesore because it's been vacant for like 15 years. And because it was vacant long before 2020 when there was a bigger shift to work from home because there's not enough demand for professional offices down in this area. This is a manufacturing area, as you learned. Like we have a lot of manufacturing here. There's a guy on YouTube with a video, went inside with no power. Oh yeah. There's a lot of that here in Detroit. Why do you think more tech fabrication hasn't migrated to MI. Seems like there's a lot of idle infrastructure. The reason why is because tech fabrication is very, very different than machine manufacturing. When you talk about what it takes to make a chip manufacturer, and they're actually going to build one outside of Ann Arbor, it is magnitudes greater of technical level. It is not like I'm not dissing on these people, but it's not like your average worker who comes in and runs a mill or machines parts. We have a lot of that here. There's a few big manufacturers of some unique parts that I've serviced some of their stuff, and they're still running the same machines for 50, 60 years. One of my clients has been in business since 1929, and some of the machines are 50, 60, even 70 or 80 years old, because it turns out certain milling machines to mill large pieces of steel are like that. You can't just flip that and say, let's create a absolutely high-tech silicone fabrication.
Right.
By the way, you can't train those workers easily. The guy who knows how to run Bridgeports and lathes and machine steel, you don't machine a chip.
Right.
So there's a really challenging building the facility and having the talent. We don't have a lot of people with chip building experience here in the United States. And the reason I even know any of this, by the way, is I've got to meet the people involved in building the chip manufacturing that's going on by Ann Arbor. And they were talking about just how hard it is. And the guy was at the IT and the D meetup.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
He just got he's someone who has experience working for Intel, and they paid a fortune to move him and his family to Michigan. So He's trying to meet new tech people, and because he's in the chip fabrication space, and he's like, I couldn't say no to what they offered me to, because I have expertise in this, to relocate me here to help them build their facility.
That's cool.
And I said, we're at the IT and a D meetup, and I'm like, what does it take to build a facility? I don't know. I bet it's hard. There was my knowledge before the conversation started. Probably hard. He used a lot of words I don't know, like level something, so many microns of dust facility, how you have to it is an undertaking to build a fabrication. I have joked about what the manufacturing places look like inside. They are an OSHA violation.
Oh my God.
There's oil just coming out of the building because it's everywhere. You can't build things in there. No, electricity is reasonably priced here. Water's cheaper compared to, say, Iowa. Water's cheap because we are surrounded by the largest natural bodies of the Great Lakes. Human computing harmony is a big thing, and human computing harmony, I don't know. Do you have any context?
I have no context.
I don't know what that is. I'm not going to Google it right now because we're reaching the end. But we're speed running through some questions because we have to leave soon. So incentivizing folks to move to Michigan I think beyond fabrication, even the data centers and DC adjacent industries would thrive. It's talent of employees there. Michigan is really good because we have the universities. University of Michigan is a well-known, world-renowned school. Michigan Tech, quite popular, although it's like 10 hours north of here. Michigan Tech is very far away, but also popular tech school. We do have a brain drain here. People come here to get educated because we have such a good school system here, but then they leave because they come here to get educated and they go, there's not a lot of tech jobs here. And then they head over to where the tech jobs are. It's tough. We don't have very walkable cities. We have the highest, our car insurance is higher than any other state by far. What we pay for car insurance here is incredible. If you live in the city proper, you could pay as much as $600 or $700 a month for car insurance a month.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people breaking laws. It's fraud. I'm not saying this is legal. I'm telling you what's happening. People will use outside the city addresses so they can drive a car in the city.
That's crazy.
Even my insurance is probably 2 or 3 X years. I forget how many. I mean, mine is like $300 or $400 a month per car.
So, per car?
Yeah.
I pay like $300 a month for 3 cars, 2 of them which are brand spanking new, and my 37-foot travel trailer.
Yep. Fab plants in the U.S. are going to cost 30 or 40 billion. Yeah, the costs are incredible.
Yeah.
I just jumped to a construction career. Hope they work on the chip plant. That said, there is a surge of industrial construction contracts right now, which is encouraging. Yeah. Oh, Gartner 2025 big technology future. I'm not going to, lawyers will come after me if I use the word Gartner in a sentence where it's derogatory. So I'll stop there. Some people believe in magic quadrants. I've even heard it might cost money to be in a magic quadrant, but yeah, that's as much as I'll say. I've learned that lawyers will come after you if you
really.
Yes, they're pretty picky about people not saying. If they think you have enough credibility, they'll think you're damaging your brand. Wow. Whether or not my level of subscription garners credibility. You see what he did there? Maybe with the tariffs, Detroit will come back. I have no. It's making a bigger mess here than anything else. It's not the right way to approach it. Is how we'll just say that it's possibly the dumbest way to approach it. It seems to be proving out that way at least. Seems like building those in Arizona is just a bad idea. Heat, power, water. People can move. We can't move rivers. Yeah, the Great Lakes has a lot more that they can do because of the Great Lakes. So that does make a pretty big difference. Is it not terrain? Where's the, why isn't it showing satellite? There we go. So indeed, and we'll share this tab now with the Great Lakes. And then you're seeing where I live in conjunction to them, but yeah, these are all fresh bodies of water here in Michigan. So you have Superior on top, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, and, all the rivers. But it's also a very, very industrial area. And this is such a contaminated area that this is not, you're not going to build a chip manufacturer. And this river, they've cleaned it up. There was a time that river caught fire.
Wow.
The river wouldn't stop burning because there was so much stuff in it. Once it lit fire, it just kept burning. You're like, how does a river burn? Welcome to the 80s in Detroit. We have done a lot to clean up the mess that's here. But this is the Rouge plant that you passed. I said, this is the road we drove on.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
See, there's that.
All the steel manufacturing.
Yeah. This is that kind of open air building, but look how big that place is. We are only seeing a piece of it. It goes all the way this way and that way. I mean, that's crazy big.
That is crazy.
But that's where we manufacture and fabricate the cars. This is all the stuff that they use to mix for the steel and they pull out of there. I don't know all the materials for it. And that's why they have their own water treatment plant. That's what you could smell on the other side. This is where they were treating the water that comes out of there. So they don't just dump. They used to dump it into river.
Oh, gosh.
They built this. They used to just go, we're done with this waste. Let's dump it over here. And that wasn't good. But this is how things would get down, and they would bring it all into here. That's where Henry Ford built everything.
Nice.
So that's your history lesson for today. We're going to stop doing history lessons.
That's nice.
Yeah, Zug Island. Yes, it is.
It looks like it's
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated with the history here because I've always lived here, and so yeah. What happens? All the data centers are using the Great Lakes as a cooler, and the Great Lakes temperature rises. Nothing good. If you raise the temperature of the lakes, that's bad. So I don't know that it's a great solution.
That's one thing I've always thought of. That's becoming even more and more popular is data centers using natural bodies of water to cool themselves. Yeah. But yeah, when you raise the temperature of a body of water like that, you have algae blooms, you kill off, any wildlife.
Yeah. So
very sensitive ecosystems there.
Michigan water is the best. I'm drinking it. So he's got bottled water. My wife
I'm a water snob, though.
Yeah, I'm fine with Michigan water. I think it's better than Toledo water.
What about Flint?
We don't talk about that. We don't ask questions about Flint water. We don't talk. So, yeah, I could go on a rant on. There's a lot of that. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ask the people in Flint.
Yeah, ask the people in Flint. Yeah, let's just say.
Let's sidestep that one.
So, interesting fact that you're going to blow your mind here. Detroit water has more lead than Flint.
Oh, really?
Yes. there's a rabbit hole that I won't go down, but yes, the problem is essentially because this is the problem with building a city before other cities. So your cities are newer on the West Coast because as we populated from east to west, you have older cities over here. And we may have used a lot of lead in pipes. And by the time we figured out that wasn't a good idea, we'd already built all the cities. And the same way that no one wants to refactor code, no one really wants to take that project. We keep patching Windows. We're not refactoring all the problems out of it. That applies to infrastructure. It's already in the ground and the water goes from where it is to where you want it to be. It picks up a few lead things along the way, but we don't really want to fix that. So the amount of lead piping that we have that shouldn't be in Detroit's and this is a new area. I mean, matter of fact, the water mains I'm hooked up to have all been replaced. These are all new water mains that are less than 15 years old. But the ones in Detroit, they are OG.
Yeah. And a lot of people will be like, well, pipe relining, that's pretty new technology still. And it's still costly.
Code refactoring does not require jackhammers. Actually, if you want it to happen, it will. You just got to threaten someone with a jackhammer. Yeah, I remember when Microsoft put some of the data centers under C's.
They've actually, I think, pulled almost all of those out by now.
So English, TSMC founder Morris Chang on YouTube. Okay, that's cool. It talks about it. Yeah, there's a lot of details that go into it that you may not think about. Yeah, Flint in general. Jobs, nope. Pipes, pass. Wonder what's history? Flint or Geary, which is worse in history? Yeah. Detroit was putting additives in the water to keep the lead in the pipes out of the water when Flint was split off from Detroit. Yep. There's so many nuances to that entire story. Jackhammers meets hammer, not hammer. How many devs does it take to lift a jackhammer? None. That's a hardware issue. We'll go with that. And with that, we will wind it down. We did 2.5 hours. This was a great live stream.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining and making this entertaining and having fun. My voice is a little hoarse. We got to go to the airport in a little while, about an hour. Yeah. So we'll figure out something to do for an hour. And unfortunately, Micro Center being 45 minutes away is not the best use of time. But we'll figure something out. Thanks, everyone, and take care.